Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
We have first base, second base, and third base covered today. That's because we have a baseball guest.
Yes.
Well, you put me in the middle and expected me to get both. We better switch.
Right.
All right, we'll switch. I'm fine with that.
By the way, can I say this real quick? Well, we know it's Chris Valaika is going to be on, and Howard Eskin's going to be on.
Yes, we're looking forward to that.
I've got to bring this up again. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. I got to say it again. I got to talk to all the people of Cleveland. Okay? If you're in the left freaking lane on the highway, you have to drive a minimum of 10 miles an hour above the speed limit.
Wow.
Minimum. Stop this nonsense. Get the F out of the left lane if you're going to drive like an old grandma. Enough.
I co-sign. I think
you.
you should have a second career as a driver's ed instructor.
That'd be a good TV show right there.
Let's indoctrinate them early. Driving by bull.
I know Jason agrees.
Oh,
he may not admit it, but he does,
I very much
does like
agree.
100 miles an hour. So.
Yeah. I mean, I should be the driver's ed.
You know what's worse? People have sent me, because they know it's one of my pet peeves, people have sent me threads on social media platforms of people actually owning this. Yeah, I drive the speed limit in the left lane, and I do it on purpose to make sure everyone else drives the speed limit.
Go F yourself.
Yeah, I have no use for those people.
Those people are the worst.
People are going to legislate what everybody else does.
Have you seen the bumper sticker that people put on their driver's side window that say, if you can read this, you're an a-hole?
I haven't seen that.
I have not seen that.
I might need to get that.
I need one of those
Yes.
because I co-sign.
I pass in the right lane all the time.
I do too.
I do too.
Did it this morning. I did it this morning. Some
do
idiot was
too.
driving a speed limit. I'm like, okay. And what I do is I look at him when I go by, and I'm
You're
like,
come on.
What are
I
you
do this.
doing?
I'm like, come on.
and what's funny to me is,
Yeah.
then I'll cut right back in front of them, and then I'll look back 30 seconds later, and they don't get it.
No.
Yeah.
They're still driving obliviously the speed limit.
I know.
Do you know what drives me crazy about that? When you do try to pass somebody and they're going, let's say we're at a 70.
And they speed up.
And they're going 60.
Yeah.
Obnoxiously slow. And you go over to start passing them, and then all of a sudden, they're going 78.
Yeah, now you
80,
get it.
Yeah.
And now
That's
and they just know you're trying to pass them, so they're going to be
I
as
know.
obnoxious as possible. And you end up going like 105 to get in front of them.
Yes.
And then you look back 2 seconds later, and they're back to going 50, and they're literally out of your rearview mirror.
All right.
That's what pisses me off.
All right, real quick, since we're talking about
Yes, let's
driving,
do it.
Yeah.
I have to admit
Get it all
this.
off our chest.
I have to admit this. So sometimes for Cavs games, I'll go for pregame and then not stay for the game. I just don't go talk to people, whatever, and leave.
Right.
So one day I was doing that, and I was trying to get out of the garage, the parking garage between the Rocket Mortgage and Progressive Field.
Sure.
And of course, like I'm a fish swimming upstream.
Everybody's coming in.
Everybody's coming
Right,
in.
yeah.
But there's enough lanes there that normally they keep one lane out. If someone's having an emergency or something, you got to be able to get out. Well, on this particular night, they had like 5 wide across all coming in. And I'm trying to get out, and they're trying to, like, they see me coming, so they're trying to, like, funnel these cars in.
Yeah.
But it took me probably 15 minutes to get out.
Yeah.
And at first I'm like, all right, no big deal. But then the longer I'm sitting there, like, I'm getting annoyed.
more agitated.
And I'm getting
Sure.
really annoyed.
Yeah.
And so I get finally up toward East 9th, and the one guy, like the parking guy who was bringing everyone in, I'm like, what's going on? He said, they're screwing up, like the parking people out. He blamed the traffic cops.
Right.
So now I'm finally all the way up, and now the smoke's rolling. And I roll down the window and I yell out, you got to leave us a lane. Like, you got to leave us a way out.
You're yelling at the cops?
Yeah.
Well, it's true they do for emergencies.
But I don't know that yelling at the cops is a great idea.
But she wasn't a real cop. She was a traffic cop. Or maybe she was. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But they're busy. So she ignored me.
Yeah.
Do not ignore me when I'm yelling at you. So then I'm like, hey, you got to leave us a way out. And she like pulls down. It was cold. She pulls down her like little bandana. She goes, that's not my problem, honey. And I said, well, you're the one holding that effing stick. And I go peeling out of there. Would you know?
God.
Would you know?
Yeah.
I got a mailbag question. Why were you screaming at people in traffic?
What?
They saw
Someone
me doing
recognized
it.
you.
I was
Wait,
like, oh, man.
From who? Who did you get
On
this from?
on the Athletic, I did a mailbag.
Yeah.
And I said, leave your mailbag questions
That's
here.
fantastic.
And somebody said, why were you screaming? Why were you so mad and screaming? And I was like, oh, man.
And by the way, one thing that also reminded me of a slightly side note of that, But this woman pulling her mask off. I am definitely not an anti-masker.
Right.
I wear masks all the time.
Yeah.
Why do people wear masks when they're in the car by themselves?
Listen, it's
I've
one of the
seen that.
unknown questions of the universe. I saw it yesterday.
I don't understand.
Yesterday, I'm like, you realize the only air you're breathing right now is yours.
I know. And even if I saw some guy, he had the mask on his chin, so he could pull it off, pull it back. Like, I find the mask annoying. Again, not an anti-masker.
You want to wear
plenty.
one? Go ahead, knock yourself
If
out.
I gotta wear, I'll wear it when I go to the hospital. Of course, I wear it, doctor's office, whatever. But I'm not wearing it in the car, and I'm certainly not holding it under my chin.
There is
It's
one
annoying.
person at least watching right now that does that.
Yeah.
Let us know. You obviously know something we don't. Why are you wearing a mask when you're alone in a car?
Mikey, what do
McNuggets,
you
you
got?
have a transition here.
Yeah, this actually is the perfect transition to what I have to get. We got a surprise for you guys this morning.
boy.
Oh, no.
We just saw Bull get angry. We just saw Jason get angry. And guess what now? We have angry emojis, and we have angry and happy stick figures of every UCSS panelist and host.
Fantastic.
On the left
I love
hand
this.
is angry and Jason, Bull, Jay. On the right is happy.
Oh, I gotta switch.
Bull, Jason, and Jay.
Wait,
We have
what's on
those
the right?
for- It doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
whatever you want. But we have angry and happy stick figures for everyone. We got some rules with these. We're going to use these throughout the show and for the rest of UCSS.
Okay.
Do not break them. They are
No.
foam, and we are not ordering more because they were expensive. So do not break them.
You can't break the budget. I love
Rule
heads on
number one.
sticks. I always have.
We're gonna find a way. They came in this morning, so
I love
next
it.
week we'll find an incorporated segment to use
Yeah.
for these. But throughout the show, guys, if you ever wanna, you like a point, throw the happy face
like
up. If you
judges.
disagree,
Very good.
Instead of cutting each other off, we could throw up the
Just
angry
drop
face.
the,
I like it.
Happy or angry
So we're
face.
gonna use those through. Those are the same exact emojis that our members get, and for $1.99, you can get all those emojis plus some more as part of our starters tier perk package. You get those royalty badges, members only post on the community page. If you're a coaches tier member for just $4.99 a month, it's less than $5 a month, less than $60 a year. You get the overtime videos, all the same starter tier perks, including those custom emojis, discount codes on merch. Plus, you get to text us. We'll answer your questions. I answered about 5 last night on the UCSS chat line. You can find that number on the Coaches Only community tab on our YouTube page. But we're going to use these sticker emoji heads, fat heads, cutouts, whatever you want to call them, throughout the show. And we're going to have our own segment for these next week. I just got to figure out how to maybe happy face, sad face. We're going to crowdsource
All right.
the name.
By the way, speaking of coaches, Mikey McNuggets came down to be my assistant coach.
How did that go? I mean,
Well,
are
I'll,
the
let
kids?
you, I'll let you start. You can evaluate my
No,
performance
you
first.
go. You give me your analysis.
Did
as
you wear the
visitor.
shirt, Coach Nugs?
Did not. I just wore a normal shirt. I didn't want to impress the kids too much early on. And to be honest, they weren't impressed by me at all.
They weren't?
Two kids told me they could shoot better than me. And then I saw them shoot, and you know what? They sure as hell can't, but I give them kudos for having confidence.
Hey.
Bull did a great job. I want to give Bull credit. They listened to Bull. They did not listen to me, so they already respect Bull more. And 2, in layup lines, Bull had them box out Bull.
Oh, really?
I will tell you, that is the most physical they'll have to get rebounding because trying to move Bull on the block is not easy.
Well, no,
Yeah.
of course not.
And if these kids who were doing a great job boxing out Bull could box out Bull, they could box out anyone that
Yeah.
week. So I'm expecting, like I put in the group chat last night, at least 13 points.
We need a
Well,
big
the team
first
high
victory.
is 14, right?
14's
so far?
the high.
Oh, so we're going to break that. At least
I'm
14
expecting.
and a half.
I want
Yeah.
18.
That little kid Kai, the little point guard,
he was quick.
he had 8 of the 14 points for us.
So he's a shooter then, right?
He is, but he's so little.
Set picks.
Muggsy?
And he doesn't pass he's got to pass the ball a
That's
little
his
more. I
name?
got to work on our guards passing the ball.
Now,
Kai.
are we,
Nobody passes the ball at that
everybody,
age.
when you coach little league teams,
Yeah.
everybody has a nickname. Have we assigned each kid a nickname yet?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
No. That's,
Well, let's
you're
go
right.
with Muggsy
It's fair.
for the little guy.
We could call him Muggsy. I don't think he'll get that reference.
No,
probably.
he won't, but you will.
I will.
and his parents will.
It's all
perhaps.
about us.
Yeah. That's right. It's all about what we know. Yeah, no.
We're there for our enjoyment.
Yes. So Mikey did a good job. He did have the ball stolen once, right? Who stole the ball from you, Mike?
Well, it was
Michael?
8-on-1.
Well,
And
Not 8,
someone
there was
took
only
it
7
from behind.
kids.
what do you think the biggest takeaway was? What skill set are the kids better at now than before last night?
It's a good question.
That is a good question. What are they better at now before last night?
Ignoring their coaches.
You know what? I taught them how to do a jump stop yesterday. I don't
Okay.
think any of them have ever done a jump stop.
Oh, really?
Can I say names, Bull?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Michael had a little booty shake. He wouldn't jump stop without doing a booty shake. He tried to twerk, and I was like, you can't do that in a game. He's like, no, it'll work, I promise. I'm like, no, man. twerking in the middle
He's
of
a
the game.
confident
Jump shot's
kid.
not gonna work. Yeah, very confident.
Clearly, if he's out there
he's the one who told me he
twerking.
could shoot better than me, and then went like 1 of 9 on his next 10 shots. But it's okay.
Well,
It's
I
okay.
love this because now we have a storyline to follow throughout the season. No Browns
Yeah.
action.
No.
We can do game breakdowns. I want video. I want the whole thing.
I know.
Maybe Brad can break down a play. I don't know. I think that would be
Well,
hysterical.
before we put in plays, because I brought a whole play sheet to implement.
Yeah.
We got to get him to learn how to inbound the ball.
Yeah, we're still
Now,
working
we're
on the
still
basics.
working-
Yeah, that's
here.
what Bull
Before
said.
we set up like a press break,
Yeah.
which they can't press, but they should still know how to press break.
I
from
had-
10. We got to get them to know that when another team makes a shot, you have to go out of bounds to pass it inbounds.
Yeah.
instead
Oh,
of
so they're just taking the ball
just
and
go.
throwing.
Yeah,
Right,
so
right.
we got fundamentals.
At
need
one
to be
point,
taken
towards the
care
end,
of first.
I did 4-on-4, and one of the 8 kids was missing, so Mike ran point for one of the teams.
Right.
But I had to tell Mike not to get the rebounds. Let the other kids
Yeah.
try to get the rebound.
Only time in his life, by the way, he's had a rebounding
Exactly.
advantage.
But I wanted him to play point guard to get some of the bigger kids involved because it's hard to get the guys who dribble to pass the ball.
Right.
I got to really harp on them. But at one point we split up. He was with the guards. I took the big kids to work on
A lot of
rebounding.
youth leagues have must-pass rules. Do you guys have? You
We
have
don't.
to pass 3. You
we
don't.
But
So
we
They
really
should.
harping on it. We
Yeah, you
should.
It's
should.
the Hoosiers rule of 3 passes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
bench.
I've been to games.
My team is on the
games
floor.
where there's not a 3-pass limit.
Yeah.
Or minimum, and what it consists of is the best kid on the ball,
Right.
dribbling through
They're
everybody,
dribbling,
pulling up and
yeah,
shooting,
yeah,
and the
right,
other
right.
kids are just watching.
Yeah.
You know,
And then they
So-
get the rebound and they throw it right back up.
That's
Yeah,
exactly,
exactly.
right.
We'll get there.
Okay,
We'll get there.
Hey,
lot
we-
going on. Yeah,
no
this was
preview.
the surprise that you had teased
That was
us
a
about,
surprise,
right?
and our next surprise is Chris Valaika is with us 5
He's with
minutes
us.
early.
Yeah,
Let's bring in Chris.
let's bring him
What's up,
in.
Coach?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Chris, how are you?
Coach, great to see you. I have this is going to be a hard-hitting question. We're going to have fun, okay? We'll
It's
definitely
weird
have
to say
fun.
coach. I know he's a coach on the Guardians, but like baseball, you say manager, but he's not the manager. But like it's weird to say coach for
It is.
baseball.
Yeah, I know.
It's
It
just
is.
a
What do
weird,
the guys
you know-
call you? Do they call you Coach or do they call you Chris?
No, Val.
Val. Okay, so we're going to refer to you
Yeah.
from here on out as Val.
I can't believe I feel like you just played last year. I know you. You've been out of the league for 10 years almost, right?
It happens fast, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, life comes at you fast.
Yeah.
Coach, we are going to have some fun. 'Cause
Val.
We got a lot of Val. Sorry.
Val, yeah.
We got a lot of fun questions for you. But one thing that as I look at the roster and the way this team is built, and perhaps some of the bigger challenges that they'll have this coming season that didn't exist last year, is the sophomore slump. You guys had an unprecedented amount of success with young kids coming up. But now they all have books. Not that they didn't throughout the course of the season, but now we've had an off season to look at everybody. And the sophomore slump, as you know, is very real. And you've got a lot of guys that could fall in that bucket. What are you doing to make sure that they don't step back from the success they had in their rookie seasons?
Yeah, man, that's the $1 million question. That's the stuff that's been keeping me up at night through the off season.
I bet.
You know, I think the biggest thing though is trying to remove the pressure from those guys. You know, like having Quan coming off like rookie of the year caliber season, Jimenez all-star, silver slugger. You know, just trying to take the pressure off those guys that they don't have to feel like they need to repeat that success. They just need to be the best version of themselves. You know, so trying to keep the messaging around that. You know, I thought something that we did a really good job of last year was, you know, the power of the high five, playing for the team baseball. You know, 29 other teams talk about, you know, hitting with runners in scoring position, you know, getting guys in from third base, having a 2-strike approach. And our guys really bought into that and made that kind of our identity. So I think, you know, keeping the emphasis on, you know, our foundational pieces and what we believe in, but, you know, letting those guys continue to grow as big leaguers.
Chris, the one I wanted to ask you about, we just saw on the screen, Oscar Gonzalez. He's a guy left unprotected for the Rule 5 draft. Luckily, there was no Rule 5 draft, so he's able to stay with the organization. The book on him was ton of power, a lot of holes in the swing. That isn't the guy that we saw last year. He hit 300, close to 300. Was there adjustments to his swing, or are the holes still there? You know, like, how is it that he came up one way and was completely different when he got to the majors? There was power there, but I think there wasn't as much power, certainly, as what I was expecting, but there was a lot more contact than I thought he would have.
I think he kind of just fell into the approach and the identity of the team. You know, I think there was so much contact around him that, you know, that kind of came part of his identity. I don't think the power, you know, left by any means. I think, you know, on the flip side of what we mentioned earlier about, there being a book on guys, I think he's going to continue to grow into that, and you'll see more power this year and, in the future as he gets more comfortable and he starts having a book on other pitchers and, understanding what they're trying to do to him, like you saw through the minor leagues with the power numbers. So, I think power comes through experience and growth, and, he's just continue to grow into that.
We always talk about the veteran players being mentors to the young players. But when we talk about the new rules, right? No shift. They banned the shift. We got the pitch clock coming in. We had Will Brennan on last week, and he made the point of, hey, most of us have played with these rules in the minors. Because your team, you don't have a lot of older players. Like on this team, Jose Ramirez is old, which he's not, but for this team he is. So is that a scenario where the younger players can kind of help the few veterans on the team because they're used to these things?
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot with that, with how youthful our roster is. A lot of these guys have come up with these rules already, so it's nothing new. Granted, they've had a year in the big leagues, to get away from that. But I think in spring training, it's going to be conversations, and we're gonna lean on those young guys a lot, on how to approach that, with the new pitch clock and getting in the box and not being able to call time, and all the different things that we're gonna have to grow into. But I think we're positioned with our roster, to be successful in those areas.
Obviously, Val, you guys, we talked about it already. You don't rely on power as a team. You rely on your ability to put the ball in play, to get on base, to spray the ball around. I'm wondering, my first thought was these new rules will help you guys more than other teams because you're not hitting home run. You're not a home run hitting team. But then I'm thinking, well, you guys, you have a lot of players that kind of spray the ball to all fields anyway, so maybe it's not as big a deal. How do you look at this rule, whether it helps or hurts the team?
I don't think it changes our identity. We talk about you got to use the whole field to earn the whole field. So, I think we had, guys throughout our lineup, Jose, Naylor, that might have been shifted. And I think it opens up a lot of hits. It's going to open up a lot of damage for those guys. So I think, we got a lot of upside coming as far as that goes. But, our guys know how to use the whole field. And, without banning the shift, I don't think it really changes, how we're going to approach things or, go about our business. We're just going to continue to embrace, the personnel that we have.
Val, the one thing we also talked to Will about last week is the fact that this season in all AAA parks, they'll be using the mechanical strike zone. And if you just follow the bouncing ball here, typically when they are instituting these things in the minor leagues, that means they're not far away from the big leagues. And I don't know if it will be the 2024 season, when it's coming, but it feels like it is. What are your thoughts on the automatic strike zone, the mechanical strike zone, and what does that do to the game long term?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I like the human element of having the umpires and, the gamesmanship between, how you communicate with them, how they can control the game. I'm not as familiar with it. I haven't been around that when they instituted it in the fall league and, through some of the minor leagues now coming up. I think there's probably some kinks, and I know they're working through that, like breaking balls clipping the front of the zone and falling under the zone and, how they can perfect that. I'd be interested to see how that works in AAA, especially with high-level baseball like that. I know we're talking about pace of play. Hopefully that, helps some of it. But, I need to do more research to have a better answer for you guys.
We actually talked to Tito about that last year, and he said they tried it during the COVID restart spring training, and it was terrible. He said balls in the dirt were being called strikes.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
And they have a long way to go on the technology before they can really institute it in the majors.
Yeah.
Yeah, how the strike zone's established is, breaching that plane in the front of the plate. So, if those breaking balls clip the bottom of the zone in front of the plate and bounce, that's getting called a strike. So I think there's some kinks that they need to work out, as far as that stuff goes. But, if that's the direction they're going, then so be it. But, I definitely appreciate the umpires. And I think that, is the way the game's been for hundreds of years, that, we got to keep some tradition in place as well.
Val, I want to talk about one of the new guys here, Josh Bell. I think Josh Bell's been a good major league player for a long time. Not a long time, a decent number of years. I've always felt, as someone who's not part of the game, but a big, huge baseball fan and an outside observer. I've always felt there was another level, at least to his offensive game. Do you see that too? I mean, is there another step that he can take offensively?
Yeah, I think, adding a bat like that, having the profile that we've seen out of him, obviously very contact oriented. He's got a knack for getting on base. But I do think, there is some upside in power. As he transitions, he's been in the Central and the National League and then moving to the West with the Padres. I guess on the East too with the Nationals. So he's kind of bounced around, but hasn't spent time in this division. So, I think there's probably, there's going to be a learning curve for him with the new pitchers, but also, the pitchers trying to adjust to him. So I do think, having that presence in the lineup is going to help us. I think it's going to break up some of the contact as well that, every inning we're going to have somebody that's a threat, be Naylor, Jose, Josh, guys coming through the lineup that every inning, there's going to be somebody that can hurt you. So, I'm real excited to see how Tito puts together his lineup and, the production we can get out of Josh.
The other new guy, of course, Mike Zunino, is a guy who, especially for a catcher, has big-time power. He's never going to hit for an average. He's not that kind of hitter. But, he missed a lot of time last year due to injury. How is he? I know it's still very early, but how is he health-wise, and what are your expectations for him?
I saw him last week. He looks great. I was really, really excited to see the progress coming back. Having that time off and, finally being healthy away from that injury. I'm excited to see what he can do. Like, just like the other guys I mentioned, adding some slug to the lineup like that, I think is only going to help us with, the profile that we have with all the contact. And, if we can put traffic on the bases for those guys, I think good things are going to happen for us this year.
Val, who's best positioned to make the biggest jump from last year to this upcoming season?
Ooh, good question. I think all of our guys had a lot of success. I think different, maybe statistical categories, we're going to see, a lot of guys make jump. I do believe our power numbers are going to go up this year across the board, so, talking about Oscar Gonzalez, I do see him having some big numbers, having a big year out of that. So I'm probably looking at him maybe to have the most upside coming up, coming off the year, hitting 300, doing what he did in the postseason. But, I think we're really going to see a jump in those slug numbers for him.
Is that the biggest point of emphasis this offseason, is getting to more power?
I think it's something that it's the nature of the beast, like that's the industry that, power plays. I think we did it, a little bit more unconventional last year with the contact first profile, but, that was really just embracing the identity of the team and the personnel that we had. So, I think it helps us. I think, we saw, when we go into the postseason or you play some of these big teams like the Yankees that, can have that 3-run home run and bail you out or put a game away. I think we're starting to compete with those lineups now, having that power potential that, we can put a game away with one swing. We can get ourselves back into a game with one swing.
As many young players as you had on the big league roster that had success, this organization still got a ton of guys in the minors who are really good. One of those guys, Bo Naylor, who obviously came up at the end of last year, Josh's brother. It didn't play a lot. But now with both Hedges and I forgot your backup catcher.
Maley.
Yeah,
Maley.
both gone. Maley couldn't think of it. Bad job out of me. Naylor obviously has a chance to be the number 2 catcher, competing for that role. From an offensive standpoint, do you think he's ready for the big leagues?
Yeah, I know when he came up last year, lack of playing time is tough. Sporadic at bats, trying to put things together. But I do, he has the pedigree. He's got the profile. He's shown it all through the minor leagues. I think the biggest thing with Bo is just going to be getting consistent reps. So, it's tough being a young player, going from playing every day, knowing you're going to be in the lineup, getting 4 or 5 ABs every night, to playing 2-3 days a week, pinch hit, finishing a game, whatever it may be. Just more on the mentality side of trying to separate, success and not chasing numbers when, your playing time is sporadic. So I do see him making an impact for us. I think this spring is going to be pretty important for him, how he comes in. And, I think the opportunity that is there for him, it's his to take.
Val, last year it was that conveyor belt of young guys coming up that the diehard fans knew were in the pipeline, but a lot of the Guardians fans were surprised at the number of guys that were coming up and not just making their debuts, but having success. Can you give us a name of someone that the average Guardians fan doesn't know today, but will know well next season?
I think Will Brennan and Tyler Freeman are going to be impactful guys for us. Throughout the year, Will did a great job, to finish the season and then into the playoffs. But I do feel those guys are going to make, big impacts for our roster, as we go forward. Giving guys days off, bridging gaps for guys. But I think there's a lot of upside in both of those guys, and where they find their at bats, I think they're really going to help us out. Not just in the short term, but for years to come.
Well, we talked recently about the fact that it seems like superstar players rarely become managers and coaches, let alone have success. It's usually guys that were more grinders, good players, middle of the road players, whatever. You look at the managers in baseball. I can't think of one manager in baseball that was a superstar. Right? I mean, who? I don't think there's any.
Well,
right
Dusty Baker was pretty
Dusty
good.
Baker.
Dusty, yeah. Dusty. But Dusty's been around forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. Dusty was an excellent player.
Yeah.
But for the most part, most of the managers, some of them didn't play at all or played in the minors. But do you think there's something to it, or is it just, especially nowadays, the superstars make so much money they don't want to bother coaching and managing?
No, I think there's something to, you see a lot of utility players. You see a lot of those guys, like you mentioned, become coaches, become managers. I think there's something to you look at the game through a different lens. You're always that grinder. You're trying to find different ways to, find an edge against, your opponent. So I think, your mindset is there, maybe going through your playing career, and then you take that into coaching. But, I don't know if that's, the way it's always been, but, it just seems like that's the way it is right now.
Our producer McNuggets has something for you. Mike, go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, Val, I was doing a lot of research yesterday to get ready for this interview, and I came across this stat that on August 24th, 2010, you got your first major league hit on your first pitch you saw. Did you know going into that at bat you were swinging first pitch, guaranteed? Like, did it matter what was thrown? And do you remember who it was off?
It was off of Santiago Casilla.
Correct.
In San Francisco. I do remember. You probably could have shot a ball out of a cannon that night, and I was going to be ready to hit. Having had thousands of at bats going through the minor leagues, I remember being on deck, trying to act cool, and I couldn't get my knees to stop shaking. So I didn't go up there with the thought of swinging at the first pitch. I just didn't want to come back to the dugout with my bat. So I was ready to go, whatever that was going to be.
It's funny that you say you were nervous, because Will Brennan, when he was on with us, admitted to us, which we thought was cool, because some guys wouldn't admit this, that he was nervous. Like, he was able to keep it cool, and we didn't know it outwardly, but he admitted in the playoffs that internally he was nervous. And that's normal, right? I mean, there's nothing weird with that.
It is. I mean, they're human. These guys, they get paid, to do this game. They're the 1%, but they're human. They have emotions just like everybody else, and you play on those stages, and especially for our guys with how young our roster is, going into Yankee Stadium, it's stuff that you watch on TV, and now you get to stand, put your spikes in the dirt there. So, as nerve-wracking as that can be, I think there's a lot of excitement that surrounds it.
Coach Val, you just mentioned dealing with some of these young guys. We had Will on last week, and Will used a couple words that I know the guys on the panel don't understand because they're over 40. When you talk to some of these guys who just come up, and with this roster whose average age is 23 and a half, do you need a translator sometimes to understand? I mean, he used
He's not that old.
Well, no, but he's a little older than me, and I struggle to understand some of the words Will Benson's. He called it a celly, which I knew was a celebration. If you guys couldn't put two and two together, that was a celebration. But what's it like dealing with some of these super young guys coming up, Chris, who, use a little different lingo than you and I? We're the same age bracket, so I feel like we could communicate on that level.
Yeah. There's definitely times where I'm like, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about or what certain things are. But you get around them, enough. You start piecing together the language. But yeah, there's definitely times where I'm like I'm not out of it that long, and I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. So.
Big fan fest this weekend. What should the fans who come down expect, Chris?
Man, I'm excited. This will be my first one. I know, the pandemic kind of, put the brakes on it for a little bit, but I think there'll be some panels. I know there's going to be some coaching clinics. There's going to be autographs. I think it's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully we get a good turnout out there, and I think we're all excited to see the fans and get out there, right before the primer, before spring training, and then getting out to see you guys for opening day back in Cleveland.
Yeah, fans are chomping at the bit. I've talked to a lot of them that are going. They're very excited, especially because it's been wiped out the last couple of years.
It would be fun if the players ran around dumping champagne over the heads of the fans. That would be kind of cool.
The celly, yeah.
That's exactly right.
A
We'll
fake
call
celly.
it the Guards Fest celly. And for $5, you get to go into a little booth and have a player dump a bottle of champagne over.
Got to get the goggles though. The player.
And they'll take your picture.
Back in the day, the guys didn't wear goggles. The guys now are soft. They're wearing the goggles.
I see that.
Back in the day, nobody wore goggles. What's happening? Thanks. Thanks, Chris.
Val, excellent job. We're behind you 1,000,000%. I can't wait to see what you guys put together this year. It's going to be fun to watch.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. Great guy.
I can't wait for baseball season.
Incredible success with the team.
Usually only hear about hitting coaches when it's not going well.
When they're getting fired.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, but we definitely have to sing his praises because, my goodness, he had – I know it's funny. You saw the team batting average 257. I think it ranked 7th. That just goes to show you how the game has changed. 257 20 years ago got you fired.
Yeah.
But
now you're doing a great job at 257.
They had the fewest strikeouts in baseball. Now, they did have the second fewest home runs, but they were a game from making it to the league championship series. So no one can tell me that you can't win that way.
I don't believe it.
I don't buy it.
I'm really curious to see the rules change and if this launch angle power obsession remains or if we go back to the way baseball was.
I think initially
I really don't know the answer.
I do think initially it's going to really benefit the Guardians.
I agree with that because
now you can't, especially a guy like Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
If you can't, because what's he going to hit? I mean, he's already a great player.
Well, for great pull hitters, there's going to be a hole now that they can find.
That's right.
And the question is, will they be able to do it? All right, let's move to the Browns. Yesterday we had the news conference. We're going to talk a little bit later about the news conference. We all thought Jim Schwartz won the news conference.
Oh boy,
but they all do in Cleveland. They come in, they say the right things, and
it's
we
hard
start
to lose a press conference.
Ordering Super Bowl sweatshirts.
Oh, I've seen it happen.
But here's a guy that I'm really excited to have him on. A, he's one of the hardest working guys in the business. B, he's one of the best dressed guys in the business. I don't think I've ever seen him without a suit and tie on. That's why I can't wait to see if Howard Eskin is wearing a suit and tie. I hope he's not because it's not.
No.
All right, good. That's okay. Howard, you fit in better here without a suit and tie. But I've never seen you without one.
I change up the colors each week. I match my headphones with my tie and with my Vans and tie it in with the suit. So that's a surprise. That's a surprise for Sunday. And but it's rare that I don't wear a suit, but it's raining here in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of an issue. And I've just stepped out of practice because the Eagles are getting ready today for their game on Saturday in which they will beat the Giants. So I'm getting ready for all that. Did I hear a yeah? Did I hear just a yeah?
I agree.
How about a hell yeah?
I agree with you.
Can I get a hell yeah?
I don't.
Hell no.
My only concern with Philly is Jalen Hurts healthy?
Yeah, that's true.
Where is he? As long as he's healthy, I don't see any reason why the Giants would win the game.
Okay, I'm going to steal a word from a quarterback that looked like he was done this year. RELAX. He is fine. Full practice. He's going to be fine. He'll probably have at least 90% of the plays in the arsenal that the coaches will give him. So it'll be okay. Just relax. He's going to be fine.
It's Philly. They all have PTSD. All of them there, just like Browns fans.
But they've won a Super Bowl recently. They shouldn't feel that way.
Speaking of that, you did it with a defensive coordinator that is now ours. Give us the lowdown. Give us the 411. We know a little bit about Jim. He started his career here as an unpaid intern under Bill Belichick. He's obviously had a long and successful journey in the NFL. What are we getting? Who are we getting?
You're getting a bright defensive mind. And I didn't see the news conference, but just from what you said, he usually has a lot of anecdotes. He throws in a few stories.
He did.
He's that kind of guy, and he's fun to listen to at news conferences. Now, he better be fun on the football field because I'm rooting for Kevin Stefanski. I really like Kevin. I've known Kevin since high school, believe it or not.
Wow.
So, because his dad was the general manager at one time of the 76ers. Yep. So I met him. Actually, I saw his dad play basketball at Penn. That kind of dates me a little bit. But I root for just a little bit, just a tiny bit. It just means I have more knowledge. I can give you my baseball knowledge. They're kind of screwing the game up. I heard you guys talking, but we'll stay on Jim Schwartz. They really are screwing the game up. Good for 100 years, and now they got to play with it. But I think Jim Schwartz will do a good job. I'm still not excited about what happened there, as a lot of people, I'm sure, in Cleveland are. And, Kevin Stefanski knows, and I saw him at the owners' meetings, you got to have a quarterback. So they take the chance on Watson, which I wasn't a big fan of, and the owner kind of screwed it up for everybody else with guaranteeing all his money. But if they have good defense, will put the quarterback in short fields, which is what San Francisco has done for a good job in that regard. Now, I don't know if he has all the players that he wants, because he obviously has his own style. But you got a good guy, and you got a fun guy. A little strange at times, but I like Jim. I saw him. Who was he with? Tennessee when they came in. Was he with an advisor for Tennessee? I think it was.
Last 2 years, I believe.
Okay. So I saw him this year and talked with him a little bit before the game. I like Jim, and I think he'll do a good job. And he's a little different, but that's okay, because obviously
different how?
What the Brownies had. Different in terms of the way he approaches. He'll do things on defense that some people – now, if the fans in Cleveland are anything like the fans in Philadelphia, they'll be bitching all the time. Because he'll do it differently. He likes the wide nine at times. All that stuff. It's about getting to the quarterback and putting pressure. And he'll find different ways to do that, but he's got to have the personnel to do it too. But I like Jim, and I like what he should bring to the Browns defense, which, if that's the case, it's going to make them a better team.
Howard, we're gonna go on for a second. We're gonna ask you to log out and then log back in. There's a little bit of audio difficulty that hopefully we can clean up. So if you would, go ahead and hang up, dial back in. And while he does that, guys, I'll ask you. He's talked about the stories that he told at the news conference.
Yeah, right.
He does seem to be a fun guy. This was my takeaway from the news conference. I guess this should be the case because he's been a head coach. But I felt like I was watching a news conference to announce a new head coach.
Yeah, I mean,
he was so authoritative. He's
been around for 20, 30 years.
And I just wonder.
And he was a head coach.
Right, but he really operates like a head coach. And all I could think of in the moment was, this is exactly who we need. Yeah. I want a guy that comes in with that swagger. He's just very confident in his delivery. He's very relaxed. I thought Kevin seemed to be genuinely thrilled to have him on the staff. And I believe, now I know that, I joked in the group text the other day, I said Cleveland is the Indian word for eternal hope. It's like, this is what we do. No matter who they name, we're going to find the good stuff and be like, hey, this team could be going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I hate to fall into that trap, but I really think they did as well with this hire as they could have.
I think they got the number one choice. And I wasn't sure that was going to happen going into the process because Kevin is on the hot seat. And you wonder if anyone would want to hitch their wagon to someone who could get blown out 8 months, 9 months, 10 months from now. And the fact that they got their number one choice, and I do think he was their number one choice, that's a win. Now let's see what happens in August and September.
I like the fact that he, talks in the press conference as if he's a head coach. Because like it or not, as we've talked about on this team, he's going to be the head coach of the defense. Yes. He's going to completely have autonomy when it comes to the defense. You know, he mentioned Kevin Stefanski's the head coach, and he'll have say on some of the assistant coaches, but why would Kevin Stefanski get in his way? Right. Anybody he wants to hire, he's going to be able to hire. Let's bring Howard back in. Howard, I'm curious, when it comes to Jim Schwartz, you talked about him being different. You talked about being a nice guy. One of the complaints a lot of us had with Joe Woods, the previous DC, is that it felt like there was no energy, there was no hard ass at all, there was no fight. He seemed very passive. And Kevin Stefanski's that kind of coach. He's not a rah-rah yeller. Is Jim Schwartz the guy who's going to go to Myles Garrett and get really get the best out of him and be a bit of a, an ass kicker, or no?
It's hard for in today's world, because you don't want players to quit on you.
That's true.
So it's really kind of different. You got to jump on them, but you got to be real selective when you do that. You really got to be selective when you do that. And that's what, he'll get into him. I mean, Jim's a tough guy, but ultimately the player knows what he has to do, and Jim tries to tell him, and they got to buy into what he wants to do. And if they buy in, he will be able to coach them up to be a better defensive team. Myles Garrett should be a good player. I don't care who he plays for. Sure. But you got to get the other guys to play well, and you got to get pressure from the other guys. You got to have 4 down linemen. I'm trying to remember the defensive coordinator the Eagles have now, Jonathan Gannon, doesn't like to blitz a lot, and he can get pressure from his 4 down linemen. I don't remember Jim blitzing a lot either. So the fans want, you got to blitz, you got to blitz, you got to blitz. No, you don't have to blitz if you can get pressure other ways and put more people in coverage. And that's really what it comes down to. You want turnovers, and pressure creates turnovers, but it puts less people out in the secondary and in coverage, or whether it's a linebacker or a defensive back, puts less people out there to get the turnovers, but you want to get the pressure from the down 4. And if I remember correctly, I think Jim tries to do that a lot too.
Yeah, no, you're right. The Browns have struggled. The Browns' defensive tackles stink, or at least they have stunk. Maybe it's coaching and they'll get better. Everywhere Jim Schwartz has been, including in Philadelphia, he's always had excellent play from his defensive tackles. Is he been lucky and had those great players? Is it that he's brought the best out of them? Is it a combination of the two? What do you think?
I think in Jim's case, it's a combination. He didn't always have the best players. The Eagles have probably the best group and depth-wise of defensive linemen now than they've ever had that I shouldn't say yet. Yeah, maybe in a long time, even the Super Bowl year of 2017. But the reality is, can coach them up. They got to listen to him. If they listen to him, I think they'll be fine, and the Browns will be better. They better be better, because I don't want to see Kevin Stefanski lose his job. Right. So and the quarterback's got to be better. So it's not just defense, but I think Jim will help in that regard. And I don't know and the good thing is, I don't know if Jim wants to be a head coach again. I'm not sure of that. When he was here with the Eagles, there was a point, I think he wanted to be the head coach. And at times, I don't know if that was a comfortable situation for Doug Peterson. But I don't know that really is his vision anymore. Right. But we'll do a good job. And I think the Browns will be, if they're not better defensively, I'll buy everybody a cheesesteak.
Pats or Geno's? Which one we got? Where are we going?
Well, I like Geno's, actually. But Adam, it doesn't look like you need a cheesesteak, because although I think since the last time I saw you, you've lost about 3 ounces. So that's pretty
now,
good.
Listen, I could always use a cheesesteak, Howard. I don't care. I'm down. You want it, especially if it's free. If you're treating, I'm in.
Yeah, free's our favorite. That's our favorite word.
It ain't for me.
That's right. That's right.
If it ain't for free, it ain't for me.
That's
Remember
right.
that.
Yes.
Is this Eagles team going to go all the way?
They're going to beat the Giants. Because they play at home, I think they have a good chance to beat San Francisco. Could be tough. That defense really is what wins them games and gives them field position, and Purdy's done a nice job. I think they have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. City or Buffalo are better, but that doesn't mean the best team. The Eagles were the underdogs in the Super Bowl against Patriots and Bill Belichick. So, and they won that game too. Well, you noticed that little reference there. Huh?
Yeah, how could Howard? How could we miss it?
Hey, we could very well have a Cavs-Sixers first-round series in the playoffs. What do you think of that matchup?
I'm not a fan of the Sixers in the playoffs. Anybody that plays a little bit of defense can figure out what to do against the Sixers. I like the Cavs. Cavs done a nice job, a really nice job. The home court, I don't know that makes that much of a difference because it didn't in this case the last how many years when they get knocked out in the second round. I wouldn't mind seeing that, and I would lean towards the Cavs.
Wow.
I think Father Time is now come into the room with James Harden. I don't care what his numbers say. I'm not a James Harden fan. Be a terrific player, but he cares about his points more than he cares about a lot of other things, and I'm a little disappointed in that. He's a really good player, but this team I don't think they're a championship team or a championship caliber team. So I would lean towards the Cavs. It would be an interesting series, but I would lean toward the Cavs.
Last thing before we get to
go ahead.
Steve, last thing, I'll throw a baseball thing at you. Obviously, the Phillies had that great run last year. My man Kyle Schwarber, one of my favorite players, was awesome for them. The division's tough as hell, though. The Mets obviously added a lot. The Braves are never out of it. The rest of the other two stink. But I mean, the Dodgers did nothing this offseason. I know the Padres did, but you could argue that the Phillies, Braves, and Mets might be the three best teams in the National League. How do you like their chances this season in the division?
I still wouldn't sleep on the Dodgers, but I think the Mets are the best team. The Phillies might be the second best team. You got to remember, and the Phillies did a lot. Dave Dombrowski did a lot to improve the Phillies team. Yep. And they needed to improve because reality, if they didn't, they were 15-3 against Washington and basically 500 against the rest of baseball. Yeah. And that dope of a manager in St. Louis gave them that first game, which gave them. What a dope he is. How he mismanaged that game. I always contend that managers don't win games. They usually lose games, and he lost that game. But give the Phillies credit after that. They picked up, they got on the horse and they rode it right to the World Series. Houston was clearly the better team. Yep. But the Phillies have done a lot to improve. I like Schwarber, but I want to see, and I saw Rob Thompson yesterday. The Phillies had an availability. I went from the Eagles to the Phillies because they're kind of across the street here. And I asked him if Schwarber has lobbied to be the leadoff hitter yet because Trey Turner is here. Yeah. He says, no, he hasn't said anything. He's a team guy. Because the manager is a Canadian guy, it's always hockey references. So Schwarbs, as he likes to call him, is a team guy. Well, I think he wants to lead off. I mean, he's not going to hit 46 home runs again. The only problem, and this analytics has screwed up baseball. How can you have a leadoff hitter that hits 218? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I hit home runs and he walked. I don't care. The leadoff hitter, I don't want a walk doesn't drive in a run unless the bases are loaded. And all this nonsense with the rules, leave the shift in. You guys are talented enough. Hit it the other way.
Yeah, that's what
hit it where as the old saying in baseball, hit it where they ain't. Yeah. And that's the problem.
That's a lost art.
Enlarging the bases. It's just, here's my idea for baseball. If they're gonna slop it up with all this nonsense, why don't you put a clown's mouth in the outfield, in the stands?
I love it.
And if you hit the ball as a home run through the clown's mouth, you get 2 runs rather than 1. Why don't they do that? Just
if it's going to be a clown show, go all in. I see what you're saying. Howard Eskin, it's always fun to talk to you.
We got to ask about Steve Becker.
Yeah, we got to ask about Steve Becker. Your once upon a time high school intern is now our executive producer. How the hell did that happen?
You know what? Hey, listen, a broken clock's right twice a day. So remember that. This is what I'll say about Steve. On a good note, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't for Steve. because, my station, which is WIP on radio, it's Fox here in Philadelphia on TV, but they don't like me to do stuff for things out of the company. But I said, to hell with that, because I respect the guy that works hard, and I've had a lot of interns that have moved forward and made success out of the business that they want to be in. They've been successful. And Steven was a hard worker, a good kid. I guess he's not a kid anymore, but I wonder, is he still a dope? Is he still a dope, or is he?
No, he's left that trait on the side. But he's a hard worker. He's a hard worker. I can.
That clip's gonna lead our best of 2023.
Oh my God,
Steve, are you still a dope? Now, did you call him dope when he was your intern?
I let it go because I didn't want to shatter his. But I can call him a dope now because at least he's got a job in the business. So that's good. But no, I like Steven, and he is a hard worker. I guess maybe 50% of the time he's a dope, but that's all right. He just fits in with the fans of Philadelphia. That's all. I mean, it's all good.
Howard, great catching up with you. Appreciate it.
See.
Okay, when you see me on the game on Sunday.
Dope, so.
What's that, Howard?
Well, Sunday you'll see me in a suit, so I won't disappoint you.
All right, I had no doubt that we would.
Or
Howard
Saturday.
Eskin from
Game's on Saturday. Yes,
WIP in Philadelphia. You'll probably still be in a suit on Sunday. Howard, thanks. We appreciate it. So now we've got a new nickname for Steve.
You guys have a great day.
Yes, you too.
Yeah.
So McNuggets has a nickname.
Yeah.
Now Steve has a nickname.
Yeah,
so we got McNuggets and Dopey.
I don't think we should use that.
I don't know if I'm
nickname,
comfortable calling my boss Dopey.
Yeah, I'm not doing that either.
Steve did say, though, if you guys check your phones in the group chat, he said he did call me Dope as an intern. So,
well, the one thing that we've learned with Howard Eskin, if you didn't already know it, and this is why I always liked when he would come on to ESPN, he was so strongly opinionated that Skip didn't like working with him because he had the hot takes, and sometimes he could overshare.
Is he Philly Skip?
What's that?
Is he Philly Skip?
He's absolutely Philly Skip. 1,000%. He's Philly Skip, Stephen A.
Does that make Bull
all wrapped
Cleveland
into one?
Skip?
No.
I don't know that Bull wants to be, nor should he want
he
to
doesn't.
be
I'm just
Cleveland
saying, but
Skip.
as far
No,
as
I wouldn't say it does.
Heavy opinionated.
No, and what I loved about Howard was he had really strong opinions, and he wasn't afraid to dole them out.
As everybody should be on radio.
Even if it meant calling someone a dope when they're a dope.
People are scared. A lot of radio people are scared to hurt feelings.
And he's never been afraid to do that.
No.
And we appreciate his insight on Howard Eskin. And what I want to do before we move on to, because we're going to talk NFL stuff, the playoff weekend and everything coming up. But before we do, I'd like to get it back to Jim Schwartz and the news conference. Do you want to do your read here before we do that?
Yeah, because now we are officially talking All Browns for the next little bit. And when we do talk All Browns, it's sponsored by Cuyahoga Community College. Tri-C supports their students financially, professionally, personally, opening up the doors to endless possibilities. Tri-C is where the future starts, and it's already begun. You still have time to join. You have till tomorrow to register. Tomorrow, Friday, last day to register for classes this semester. Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College. That's where it's at.
I feel like, I know some people do say Cuyahoga, but I feel like we're now, like, remember when Tyrod Taylor came here? And then all of a sudden it was like his mother said his real name's Tyrod.
Yeah,
and then
I remember
people
that.
had to call him Tyrod, and it was awkward because we've been calling him Tyrod for 10 years.
His name is Tyrod.
No, I know that, but why didn't he correct us when he was a rookie? Why did he wait 10 years into his career?
No one asked him.
Remember when Mitch Trubisky all of a sudden wanted to be called Mitchell?
Yeah, no.
And it's like, no, we're already locked in on Mitch. Well, I'm already locked in on Cuyahoga. It may be Cuyahoga is the correct pronunciation, but I'm locked in.
How did I say
I'm
it
pot
today?
committed.
Did I do it right today, Bull? I'm
No,
so
you
far
said
in my own
Cuyahoga.
head.
You said Cuyahoga, didn't you?
Haga. You said Haga.
Yeah, you
I'm
said-
so far in my own head that
You
I
are.
don't know what I'm going to say. It just
Oh,
comes
by
out.
the way, an update, because we were talking about James Earl Jones, and
Yes.
he voiced this
Yes.
documentary about the river. So I actually reached out to
Caliendo.
I think the best impersonation guy on the planet, Frank Caliendo. And
You read your text to him yesterday.
I was afraid that this would be, he said, man, he's tough to do.
Yeah.
And he says, it's hard to do because it's a smooth, deep voice.
That's a hard
And I don't
yeah.
have it. Yeah. I imagine if you had it, you could go make, his minimum fee is $2 million.
There's got to be, doing an impression of James Earl Jones has got to be near impossible.
I mean, I would take Frank Caliendo doing Morgan Freeman for the show.
Well, he does Morgan Freeman.
does.
Spot on.
When he does Morgan Freeman, you think you're listening to Morgan
Absolutely.
Freeman.
Most of his impressions, you think you're listening
So
to that
It's his
guy.
birthday today, Jay.
He's
Do
so
you know
good.
that?
It's Frank's birthday?
Yeah, you should wish him happy birthday.
Well, I will wish him a happy birthday. I still think we'd want him on the show.
Yes.
His
Is
wife,
that yes?
his wife is from here.
Yes. That's not a question.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman, whoever. We just take Frank as Frank. We'd love to have him on the
Absolutely.
show.
He married a local girl. He had a house in Avon Lake. I don't know if he still
I
does.
didn't know that.
Yeah, local guy.
Getting
Kind
back
of.
to Jim Schwartz, though.
Real quick, can I make one
Yeah.
Avon Lake joke? Caliendo couldn't afford Chagrin Falls.
I mean, Avon Lake is a really nice neighborhood.
It was like his fourth home. It wasn't his
February 8th. You can see all
Avon-
the rest of my jokes on stand-up at Hilarities. That's the official date. We'll send
Oh,
out
is it?
pretty soon.
I'm
we got a
telling
date
you.
now, February 8th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
February
We need
8th
to
is the
plug
official
that a little bit more.
Well, Polk told me by the end of the week we'll have a link for tickets. We
Okay.
submitted yesterday the poster, the description, the name of the show. It is in works. February 8th is locked in.
and it's, where is it? Hilarities?
Hilarities on
Yeah.
East 4th.
Okay, so we need to start a campaign like hashtag Pack Hilarities. Or so I want that place standing room.
Standing room only, and we're also
You have-
donating all the ticket proceeds to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank.
Nice.
So it's for a good
Well,
cause.
there you
Great.
go. So you get a
Awesome.
good
Are
show
you-
and you help feed the hungry.
Are you, are friends of yours flying in from out of town?
I don't know if they're. That's TBD. But that place will be packed. I know Anthony and his friends flying up for his performance.
What is it, a Wednesday?
The Wednesday night, yeah.
See, that's tough, man, because if
I know.
someone's going to come in from out of town, it needs to be a Friday.
I know. It's not ideal,
Yeah, but they're
they
not
wouldn't-
giving us hilarities.
They're not
on
They
giving
wouldn't
Friday.
give us
the venue on a
hilarities on a
Friday
weekend,
night.
so it was the best we could do.
They got real comedians.
I hope
on Fridays.
Mike's friends that we taped the segment with that will never see the light of day, I hope they come in.
Yeah, I do too.
The most awkward segment. Thank
Eli
God
will
they-
not be here.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, we
We'll see
didn't
if we
even
get
see
Lee
him.
up
We
here.
just saw his nose, basically.
His ear.
Okay,
So
more
Jim Schwartz.
reaction on the Schwartz news
I,
conference.
as I was
yesterday.
saying before we brought Howard Eskin back, listen, winning press conferences is stupid. We've
Yeah,
been
it
through this
doesn't
a million
matter.
times. It's completely meaningless.
We've
We
done
all
that
get
a lot.
excited. A lot of fans are like, they're going to be a top 5 defense. We all hope that they are. And Nick's right. I want to know what the 3 losses were in the press. I think it was the Joe Banner press conference was one of the 3
Ray
losses.
Farmer with the towel.
Ray Farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But remember the 3 Stooges?
Yeah.
Who asked that question? Was that Dan DeRose?
Yeah,
Somebody
Dan
from
DeRose.
Channel 19.
Yeah.
Dan DeRose. Yeah. Anyway, but Jim Schwartz, as you said, he comes off as a head coach because he's been a coach for a long time. I do think what Howard Eskin said was very interesting, that it was maybe a little bit of an issue in Philly because Jim Schwartz still wanted to be a head coach, and he thinks that at this point that ship has sailed for him.
He's 56. It probably has
Yeah,
sailed
yeah.
for him. The trend
Exactly.
of the league
I mean,
is younger.
but at the same time, we also have to just not too long ago, Super Bowl winning coach retired. Well, he came back in Tampa Bay and won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. And how old was he? He was in his 60s.
Oh, Gruden, you talking about?
No.
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians.
Oh, right,
I mean,
sure.
everybody thought, well, I guess he's never going to get his,
Yeah.
And then when he retired
He's
in Arizona, he came back.
The difference is that Bruce Arians had never been a head coach before.
No, he was in Arizona.
Oh, in Arizona. Oh, yeah, good point.
So, I mean,
But
it
it
could
could
happen.
happen, sure.
I
that's
hate
true.
to close the door on it. I'm sure Jim hasn't either.
Yeah.
Look, if Jim's defense next year is a top 5
He'll
and
be
they go
Somebody might
14,
give him a chance.
13-4, some team's going to say, hey, he's 57.
He was
Let's
a
go.
candidate here in 2020 when they hired
He
Kevin.
was.
He was on the list of
I
candidates.
wouldn't rule out the fact that he might be a head coach again.
Right, but you just hope that's not an issue because he said it might have been a little bit of an issue in Philadelphia.
Well, remember, he was 6 years younger then, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
He won a Super Bowl in Philly as defensive coordinator. I think he's very well liked there. He's beloved in Tennessee. He's been in Tennessee. He was a stint prior as a DC there before.
He was there
this.
like 10 years.
Yeah, and they sort of hit him because of their DC now on the optics. They didn't want look like he was encroaching on the guy. So he wasn't out for practices very much from the sounds of things. He didn't do a lot of
But he had
on-field
input.
coaching. But of course he had input. But my point is, like, how often are the coordinators known and liked in cities? Most of the time you want them fired. Most of the time you hate them.
Right, that's why they're gone.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you
And well, as soon as you get to the point where you love them, so does everybody else, and
Right.
they're gone.
They're gone.
Right.
But there's 2 cities that I know of that really liked him and thought he did a nice job. And then obviously Detroit, he took the Lions to the playoffs, something that doesn't happen very often.
No.
So there is reason to like him. But they also had bad years. Like, his last year in Philly was not good. And he was fighting health issues. And
That's
had
true. And they
some
were an
other-
older team by that point.
Yeah.
So they were but the one thing that you never know when you hire a guy, whether he has a ton of experience or no experience, you never know for sure if it's going to work out. Ever.
Right.
Different teams, different circumstances. You have a coach in one spot, he's a genius. Another spot, he's an idiot. You know,
we've seen it a lot.
Whatever. However, what in general, the Browns have not hired a ton of guys with this much experience.
No,
right?
it's not.
I mean, whether it's head coach or coordinator or anything, they had.
I can't think of another one.
Well, they had Greg Williams, who had a lot of experience when he came in.
Was Greg with New Orleans when they won the Super Bowl?
He was Bountygate. Was he? I would imagine he was.
I don't remember for sure.
I don't know either. But I mean, this is as polished of a coordinator that as we brought in, maybe since Greg Williams.
Obviously, Hugh Jackson had a ton of experience, not as a head coach, but he had a ton of experience as a coordinator. But just in general, most of the head coaches and coordinators that have been here in the last 10, 15 years have been low experience guys.
Very green. Yeah. He told a story during the news conference yesterday about Malcolm Jenkins, who I think is everybody's favorite. Everybody loves Malcolm Jenkins. Yeah. One of the things that I think was really positive that I took away was he talked about a play where Malcolm made the play, but he was out of position. He didn't do what he was supposed to do on that play. And it was an end-of-game play, and everyone looked at him as the hero. But Schwartz had pulled him aside and after the game and said, look, you made the play. Congratulations, we won the game. However, I'm going to undress you in film breakdown tomorrow because you didn't do what you had to do. And Malcolm Jenkins said what you would want your superstar to say. Coach, you do whatever you have to do. I'm all for it. I want to get better. And that to me, Myles Garrett is not, we tend to think he's in the right place all the time. Myles makes mistakes. Myles has probably made mistakes that have really hurt the team at times.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Just the offside.
Now we have someone who's going to say to Myles to help him get better, not don't worry about it, big guy, you're an all-pro, that's going to happen. No. He's going to use you as an example to show everybody else on the team we have a standard. The standard is every guy pulling their part of the rope on every play. And on this particular play, Myles did not.
I think an important part of what you said there, though, is that he told Malcolm Jenkins that he was going to rip him essentially before he did it. Because I think if you're Myles Garrett and all of a sudden, like, everybody's been kissing your ass.
You've earned that.
You've earned, like, hey, Myles, you're awesome, but you screwed that play up, and we're talking about it.
I'm going to help. I'm going to make the whole team better by showing that
because
you made a mistake.
Because the whole rest of the team is like, man, if he's critical of Myles, then wow.
And I think we've talked about this on the show multiple times. Myles is a phenomenal player. There's more in there that they haven't got.
There is. There's one more level.
And you know what?
There's games where he disappears, and he might make one big play at the end of two. But
and some of it is that he's got no help on the D-line.
Some of it
there's
is.
no doubt
there
there
is.
Some of it
is. It just feels like he's not making the impact.
But the last 2 years you really couldn't make that argument because when you've got another bookend like Clowney, it's not like you have no help up front. There's another guy that you have to pay attention to. And I think to your point, and we keep showing the resume of Schwartz, and they're all interior defensive linemen, but the guys that have had unbelievable success. If Schwartz can do just this one thing, and that's unlock the next level to Myles Garrett, which I think everybody agrees is out there.
It's in there.
There is something more to Myles Garrett that we have not seen yet. If Jim Schwartz can get him to the next level, by proxy, the entire defense becomes better, and he's done his job.
Yeah, and remember, like, it's not like we're really being critical of Myles Garrett. The next level is the last level.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of guys that can't possibly get to that level. He's already his career is at worst a borderline Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
But he could get to the no-brainer Hall of Fame level.
I don't want to take everything back to LeBron, but I had a really interesting conversation with him his last year here where I said, like, there's a difference in Hall of Fame and greatest of all time, and it's this.
Yeah.
And you know it when you see it. And Myles will be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not the greatest of all time.
He's not.
No.
He's not in that conversation.
No.
Because of this. It's this.
Yes.
And you know it when you see it, and that's where he has to get to. That's what
if he comes out next year and has 20 sacks and is a real disruptor, making plays throughout games, not disappearing for 3 quarters and then making one big play at the end. But when we watch, I talked about him early this season, about Micah Parsons for the Cowboys. He, I think, has taken that step to where it's almost like clockwork. When there's a big play to be made, there he is.
He's going to make it.
Yeah.
And T.J. Watt has become that guy. And clearly Aaron Donald did it in the biggest game of all.
Right.
I want to see Myles Garrett be that guy, not just one game a season, but like every time we're close and late, This guy is getting free and making a strip sack, or he's doing something.
The last level is the consistency of greatness.
Right.
And I think that's why Jim Schwartz is here.
Yes.
Is to try and get that out of him.
And for that, we have to give kudos to whoever made this call. And again, it's preliminary, and we're all excited and ordering playoff tickets. But on the surface, nobody's moaning and groaning about this hire. I think they did as well as they could.
Right.
And let's see if the defense plays better next year under Jim Schwartz.
Now, obviously, they'll have some other players. It's not going to be the exact same roster. And so that's going to help, too. But, yeah, you would think this guy with this experience has a much better chance, and no offense to Joe Woods, but, Joe Woods had been a coach for, 8 years maybe?
Yeah.
This guy's been a coach for 30 years. So, and he's been a DC for a long time, and he's been a head coach, and he's won a Super Bowl, and he's been in a lot of different organizations. So it would just make sense that even if the talent was exactly the same, that they would be at least some level better, not necessarily top 5, but at least some level better, because he has a bigger toolbox to pick from because he's been a coach for so long.
Sure. All right, let's turn to the page and talk about the Cavaliers, who last night, it was a wild game. At one point, I think they were down 19 points.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, that's when I stopped paying attention, because I just thought, it's too much on the road against the best home team in the NBA.
And they were completely healthy, and the Cavs were without their best player.
Without Mitchell. So I just figured that it was going to be an L. But then, as I'm checking my score, I see that it was a 1-point game, with 7 minutes to go. And I said, whoa, what the hell happened? In the end, it wasn't enough. They lost 115-114.
They had a 3-point lead with 40 seconds, 30
they did,
seconds to go.
Ja Morant missed a shot
Yeah.
that was tipped in with 15, 16 seconds to go.
By the
I
way,
think
that
Steven
call-
Adams had the tip in. Good.
Right, Steven Adams tipping gave them the lead.
Yes.
But what led to that beforehand, when the Grizzlies had the ball with 30 seconds, whatever it was, they were down 3. And they called the foul on Jared Allen.
Yes,
That was a horrible call.
I didn't like that call either.
You want to just pull it, Mikey?
Can we
since we're
see
talking
that
about
play?
Do
it?
you want the inbounds play in the last possession, or do you
No,
want
the Jared Allen block call with
The
a minute
block
left.
call, because that was
the block call? We couldn't find the block
Oh,
call.
really?
Okay.
Okay. So,
But
yeah,
for
it
those
was
who
with
saw it, that
with
was
a
a
minute left.
Jared Allen's just standing there.
I know. I didn't get it. I think it was one of those that you just chalk up the
And so
home
you
cooking.
gave him 2 easy free throws.
But-
It changes the dynamic of the game, because if it's a foul on Memphis or a no call,
Right.
Now you
no
got
call.
possession.
He's not getting a shot up.
Now you going the other way. You got possession,
Right.
3-point lead.
I would
with
have
a
been
minute
happy. I
left.
would have been happy with a no call.
Yeah, it changes the game. But last night was a perfect example to me, guys, of this push and pull that we're having with the conversation about Donovan Mitchell versus the development of Evan Mobley. And last night I thought was just a perfect encapsulation of that.
No doubt.
Because Donovan takes up so much oxygen on the offense that at times I do think it has stunted Mobley's growth. But then last night he has the opportunity. Mobley played great. Had a great night.
Jason, I thought the fourth quarter of that game was the best I'd ever seen him play. He was phenomenal on offense. He was confident. He was taking, I think it was Mikey that brought up, he needs that, was it you that brought it up, or maybe G? He needs that foul line jumper, from and he.
One thing I didn't understand, though, at the end of the game, when Garland finally got the shot away that was blocked, he ran out to the 3-point line. Mobley did.
I'd have to go back and look at
Yeah,
it.
And he was out on the left wing, and I'm like,
But-
first of all, I didn't like that we were taking a 3 there.
Yeah, I didn't like it
I
either.
didn't. Force the ball inside.
It was bad. They didn't get a good shot off. But specifically on Mobley, offensively on the glass and defensively, he was killing them.
He was great
He was blocking
defensively.
shots. He was moving shots. I mean, he was phenomenal.
But this is the difference that Donovan makes, because this is, so we've talked all the time about regular season versus postseason, and it's totally different, and there's no similarity between the two. But the Cavs are in a nice little stretch here where they had at Memphis last night. They've got Golden State, Milwaukee coming up this weekend at home. This is a pretty good stick of where they're at. And I thought what was important last night with no Donovan, they go back to Darius as the closer, and you see why this team needs Donovan. And if it stunts Evan's growth, okay, so be it. You kind of live with it for big moments like this, because Darius tried to close it out, and frankly, he couldn't do it. And Darius played great. And this is nitpicking a little bit, but I'm just showing you this is what happens. So I don't think we have the possession, but Darius shoots a 3 and misses. It was a good look. He was open, and then gets it back, tries to drive. They swat it out of bounds. And so there's 3 seconds left on the shot clock. So Cavs call timeout because they got to try and run a play. And I want to show you this play real quick.
We got this one. You can take it, Steve. You play it.
All right, so here's the play coming up where they have Karras try and set the screen, and it was a terrible screen from Karras. And as a result, you see Karras there trying to set the screen.
You're right. That was a half-ass screen.
It's a terrible screen. So Dillon Brooks, who's a terrific defender, fights right through the screen. Darius can't get open. They can't get the ball in. It's a 5-second penalty. You have another timeout left. That's a fail all the way around.
That's a huge mistake by JB.
You have to see that the officials get to 5.
At least.
Call the other timeout. Get a better inbounds play in. Do something there. I don't know if Isaac's a great trigger man there. He's kind of a young guy. You want more of a veteran in that instance, a guy who can understand the internal clock. So just a complete failure and breakdown there. And part of it is you don't have Donovan. And so when your point guard is your closer, it's not impossible, but it's difficult to win. And like Chris Paul's the best player on the Suns, and they have a lot of success. But I've talked to a lot of NBA people who feel like you want your point guard to be a number 2, but it's really tough for him to be a number 1 and to win at a high level with that. Yeah. And I think last night was a perfect encapsulation of that. Darius played a great game. Evan Mobley played a terrific game, but they were missing their closer on the road, end of game situation where you have a chance to make a big shot and win the game, and they couldn't get it done.
And Jason, real quick, one thing on that. We have the last possession of the game when they get the ball back, down 14 seconds left. Steve, play the clip here. And this is exactly what you're talking about, Jason. Well, not Mobley here, but Garland against a good defender. Dillon Brooks is a good defender. Struggles to create an open look here. He passes, gets it back. And then this is what you end up with.
That's what you end up with.
Jared Allen also did not set a good pick there.
No, but look where Mobley is right here.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing out there.
What's going on?
Well, I think the play there probably is just get open and try and get a shot. But they did have a timeout left.
But look at the pick, Jared Allen. Usually he's great at this, but this is not a good pick here.
And, well, no, it's not. He probably, but I don't think he knew exactly what Darius was doing because they weren't running a play.
There's no set play there, Jason.
JB really screwed up
get a good shot. That's playground basketball.
And this is the age-old debate that coaches have all the time. In that situation, do you want to call a timeout and let the defense get set? Or you just want to freelance?
That's always a dilemma.
And I think JB probably was looking at this as, hey, it's a big moment. Let's see what they can do.
Well, you know what? If I have my closer on the floor, I say go.
Yeah.
But without Mitchell in the game, let's reset. Yeah. Let's catch our breath. Let's draw something up.
Right.
And Mobley just drifts out here. First of all, I think they should have shot earlier in case they missed, that they get a chance for a rebound.
Yeah.
I thought the whole thing was poorly operated.
I thought they were out of timeouts at first, and then I went back and watched it again. I was like, oh, wow, they still had a timeout. So that's the rough part is you still have a timeout. You took a 5-second call, and you didn't have a play drawn up at the end, and you went home with a timeout. So they're little things, but this is the difference in playoff basketball, especially when you're on the road. This is what determines if you.
And by the way, let's point out Memphis is the best team at home in the NBA.
11 in a row,
at
I think.
20-3. They've won 11 in a row, which ties a franchise record. To your point, they were completely healthy. The fact that they played this team to within a last shot of beating them on their floor was an encouraging sign, but unfortunately, it's just more ammunition to what we've said all year. They're not good on the road, and they have a closing problem.
But I mean, if they had won that game, it would have been huge. But
that might have been one of the biggest wins of the season.
Absolutely. No doubt. I think it would have been the biggest. But one other thing we haven't mentioned, Isaac Okoro, who played very well last night, is playing his best basketball.
He is.
And I wonder.
He's playing with confidence.
Right? Like I think he made every field goal last night.
I talked about it early in the year. Teams are just ignoring him, and Memphis was ignoring him last night.
Yeah.
And early in the year, he'd get the ball in the corner and give it like he wanted no
Well,
part
that's why teams
of
are
the
ignoring him, and maybe that's why he's having success.
Right.
It's because the book on him early was he's not involved.
Go back and look at a lot of his looks last night. They were wide open, catch and shoot, set your feet. You got plenty of time. If he continues to play this way, teams are going to start paying more attention to him. But this is exactly what they need out of him. That is exactly what you need. 17 points. I think 5 of 5 on threes, I think is what it was. Yeah. That's what you need from him. You don't need him to go 100% from 3, but if he can make 3 or 4 threes a night, even 2 or 3 threes a night, just being in the corner and wait for the ball on offense, be active defensively, be the athletic guy, be the Dillon Brooks of their defense, who did a great job last night defensively for Memphis.
Especially on that last play.
Yeah, he was terrific on Garland.
Well, Jason, let me ask you this: from your perspective, with Isaac Okoro playing probably the best basketball of his career recently, are you thinking, wow, this is great because maybe he's going to continue to progress and can be a legitimate player? Or are you thinking, or if you're the Cavs, are you thinking, I hope he keeps playing great because maybe we could use him as a real trade chip?
I don't think you're going to trade him only because he's young and he fits. He's not making a ton of money. And I think you look at this and go, this is what we've been working on.
You know that's what he can be.
But
can he be that consistent?
Right, yeah.
And that's what I think. I think it's worth.
And in the playoffs, when the defense gets ratcheted up.
I think it's worth keeping him to find out if that's what he can be, because of what we talked about all year. They're not going to be a tax-paying team.
Right.
So what are you really going to get for him? I don't know that they're really going to get all that much for him. I'd rather keep him and see if he can continue developing this way, if he can continue to grow into the player that they obviously thought that he could be.
We've got a minute, then we're going to Cavs fence rider question. No fence rider questions. Someone sent it to our group this morning. Deadspin picked up on our conversation earlier this week about, I think you just threw it out, happenstance.
About LeBron.
Yeah, would you trade right now LeBron James for Evan Mobley or for
Evan Mobley for LeBron James?
Yeah, straight up. And it was a fun conversation. It was, but it was funny. The way Deadspin wrote the article was, this question's nuts. Well, wait, maybe it's not so nuts. I want you to weigh in on that.
I wanted to crawl into the chair. I told Bull. As soon as he said that, I wanted to crawl into the chair.
Listen, I did too. I said when you said it, I'm like, oh, no.
I knew it was going to get clipped and it was going to go everywhere and I was going to hear about it from someone. But no.
But on one hand, it is crazy. But on the other hand, it does at least beg for some inspection.
By the way, it can't be crazy if the fact you'd have a better, as much as I like Mobley and really don't want to trade him, you'd have a better chance to win a title this year with LeBron than Mobley.
But you're clearly selling your soul. It's a Los Angeles Rams type deal.
But like we said the other day, first of all, it cannot happen. LeBron cannot physically be traded this year from the Lakers under any circumstance.
Right.
Because of the timing of when he signed his contract. Legally, he couldn't be traded until after the trade deadline passes.
And the money doesn't work.
So it's out. Regardless of the money, he physically, literally cannot be traded this year. So it's a moot point. I still wouldn't do it. I mean, I love LeBron, but I would not make that trade. I think Mobley could be a very special player.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it
in this
either.
league.
No way.
And LeBron's going to be. We were having this conversation before. I think that okay, they're going to go to the playoffs this year, and if maybe they win a series.
Yeah.
And then maybe next year they go to the conference finals and they lose.
And then they bring in LeBron.
And you're one piece away.
Well, and the thing of it is that's where you have your cake and you get to eat it.
That's exactly it.
So you
That's
just
exactly it.
wait.
You build.
And you see what he's going to do.
Right.
And bring LeBron in to
maybe,
close it.
the guy changes his changes his mind every 10 minutes or so.
I'm in the minority, the vast minority. I think it's possible. Everyone says there's no way
I agree
he's
with
coming
you.
back.
I think
He's
it's
finishing
possible.
his career in L.A. His kids love it there. His wife loves it there. I'm like, okay, that's true.
They love Miami,
but
too.
the kids are getting older, and they're growing up, and I absolutely –
His younger son is what year in school?
Bryce is
Sophomore.
Sophomore, yeah.
How good is he, by the way?
Better than Bron.
Better than
Supposedly
Bronny.
better.
Yeah, he
really?
Is. Yeah, he is.
Which is interesting.
He's already 6'7" as a sophomore.
And Bronny's
6'6",
now a
6'7"
junior or a senior?
Bronny
Bronny's
is
a
a senior.
senior.
Okay.
And where is he? He's moved up and down in the top 50 recruits, but do we
You
know
want the
where?
most recent, as in the last week update from 247?
Yeah, wasn't he like 47 or something?
No, he moved up. He's played really well this season.
Okay.
According to 247, let me find it. He is.
But does he get overhyped because he's LeBron's kid?
Absolutely.
Yes. Right. Yes.
If his name's Bronny Smith.
Right.
He's 36 now. 36
He's
now.
he's a very good player, but he is not. It's kind of unfair to him. He's not.
Well, it
he's
was
not.
like watching Michael's kids. I think that one went to UCF, and you felt sorry for them because
Is he being recruited
every
by the
gym
top
he's
schools
ever
or no?
watched. Yeah, Bronny is.
And is it just because?
I mean, I remember watching Jarrett Payton at Miami, Walter Payton's son.
Yeah.
I covered that national championship game with Jarrett and thought, man, how tough that is.
Yeah, I know.
To carry that name.
Every gym he's ever walked into, for Jared, every football field he ever stepped on, from the time he was 5, that's the Bronze kid right there.
Yep.
Everybody in the gym knows it.
Yep.
And that is tough for a 5-year-old to live up to.
Yep.
Unless the son's better, which
I joked with him once about that. We were having a conversation. Savannah was afraid something was happening where it was putting too much pressure. About if they stayed here, if the kids went to St. View and put too much pressure on the kids.
I think that would have been a lot
and
of pressure.
I said, you named him LeBron Jr.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was the first mistake.
He goes, I know, right?
Yeah, that was the which is maybe why they said no, he's Bronny.
Yeah.
Bronny, yeah.
But you're not fooling anybody.
Right.
We know exactly who you are. Okay, let's do no fence riders with Cavs.
All right, so just a little background here. Bull was supposed to be off today. I was supposed to be in his chair, so I answered these questions as well.
Okay.
But I did
also-
answer.
You did?
Yeah.
No, he answered, but I
Okay,
answered
good.
too. So if you see a chicken nugget on here, I did answer. And it actually works out well because we had 5 questions. 4 of these are 3-3 splits. So one was
just got caught on
unanimous.
the
The
top of the
other 3
backboard.
were
I know
all
it did.
3-3 splits. So let's start with the first one here, Steve. Fence question number 1.
It's the first ever fence questions not about the NFL,
You're
right?
right.
No, we did the Cavs preseason.
We did? Oh,
We did the Cavs
preseason. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay.
Will the Cavs have multiple All-Stars this season? It was a 3-3 split, and Jay, you are the only person here who said yes.
I'll say this was very hard for me.
Also, yeah,
This is,
Jason
Looks like
Ball
Jason
the
and I are
Nugget.
fighting over that nugget.
That is
Yeah,
Anthony,
really.
kudos.
Come on, man.
Anthony's off right now, but kudos to you, Anthony.
oh, Jason, I've only seen you that angry once. And
That's a still shot from the show, for the record.
Yeah.
That was when you got so fired up about Baker was never going to play here again.
Yes.
You screamed, he's not playing
Never
here.
taking another snap here ever. Although you didn't see me screaming at the traffic cop.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone did.
Somebody did.
that-
So, yeah, I'll explain quickly.
Who are your multiple guys?
I just think that this team is too good to not get 2. Last year they got 3. They're better this year.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that Garland has played at that level, and I think that Mitchell has played at that level. And
I think it's
know
only
it's
going to
a
be
tough-
Mitchell. I think
do?
Garland falls short.
Yeah, it's only going to be Donovan. I don't think. Now, I guess I should have asked for clarification on this because everybody drops out.
Which is why I went with
that's
2.
true.
Which
You'd
is
be right.
why I went with 2.
So-
There's always guys that get selected after the team is announced.
I'm looking at this as the initial team.
Yes, that's how I meant
Oh,
it.
well,
That's
now-
now, Jay, you're right.
I-
If Garland
yeah.
gets on, you will
I think
technically
Jay
be right.
gets that. I think it counts if they
Because
get in.
Yeah.
Jay does get it, but when I posed the question, I was thinking along Jason's lines. Jay, you are correct, though.
And by the way,
will count.
I'm with those guys. If on the initial team that's announced, yeah, they absolutely get 1.
And-
but someone's going to drop
Well,
out.
there's going to be a lot of someones because
Yeah,
there
there
always
always
is. And it's a cold weather city, and that makes a difference.
Yes,
Oh,
and
where
that's
is
right.
it this year?
Salt Lake
They
City.
don't want to. They don't want to
Oh,
go.
Who the hell wants to go
And
there?
it's a cold weather city for the second year in a row because we had it last year. I'm telling you, this makes a huge difference. Guys are going to come up with hamstring injuries because they want to go all the way on the beach. So you're going to see a lot of guys drop out, and maybe Darius gets in that way. But in terms of the initial team, no, it's only going to be Donovan.
Yeah, so it's kind of semantics
Especially
there.
the
but-
older players. The older players.
They don't care.
They don't want to go to Utah.
No, they don't care. They don't want to come to
they
Cleveland.
Yeah,
What's
right,
number 2?
Right.
Number 2, and Bull, I'm going to let you go first on this one. You did not get a chance to answer this. It's another 3-3 split.
I didn't?
The Cavs have a 9-14 record on the road right now. Will they finish the season with at least a 500 record? 3-3 split. Bull, you also joined Jason and Jay. Actually, all you guys
we're
say
all-
no
yeah.
on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're far enough into the season. For them to finish 500 or better on the road, they're going to have to play significantly over 500
Right.
for the rest of the season. I think they'll be better on. I could see them playing 500 road basketball the rest of the year, but I don't see them playing. They're 4 under, so they'd have to play 4 over the
There's
rest of the way.
18 road games to play.
Right, they'd have to
They
win-
would literally have to go 13-5 to do that on the road the rest of the way.
And they've got.
That's not going to happen.
Right, they got tough games.
Yeah,
now.
I briefly glanced at their schedule when I saw that question. They got
Yeah.
a lot of hard road games
Right,
coming
right,
up.
right. Yeah.
It's
Can I
not-
give you my reasoning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I do think home court matters to the Cavs more than the other top 3-4 teams in the East, meaning each game, one game could be the difference between being a home team and a road team, 4-5, 3-6. I think it matters for the Cavs. I think they'll play harder down the stretch than, let's say, Brooklyn, Philly, who may rest guys because they're not looking at home court as such an advantage.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're going to want it, but I just think the hole is too deep at this point for them to get out of. They're currently 5 games under 500 on the road,
So they'd have to
which
go
means
6
they
over.
have to go 6 over, and there's not as many games on the road
No, they
left.
have to go 5 over.
No.
Because it's 500.
500.
Oh, I thought it was over 500.
At least
Either
500,
way,
at least.
either way, to do that,
Yeah.
there's fewer games left on
Right.
the road
Yeah,
than they've
it's-
already played.
It's hard.
It's going to be really tough.
Yeah, they have to win almost 2/3 of their road games.
And I just don't see that happening. Now, to your point that home court is more important to the Cavs, couldn't agree more. You had mentioned the other day that there was only 2 teams with a winning record on the road.
Yeah, I think 3.
Now there's 6.
Oh.
So
But still, it's
that's
still not a
starting
lot.
to turn around. And the
Yeah.
Knicks oddly have the best road
right,
record.
right.
Or not, now they're second best on the road.
I think they have the
But
biggest differential in
they
a
do.
positive way of road versus home for whatever reason.
But so I think you're absolutely right. I think the home court is very, very important.
Yeah.
But the one thing that scares me right now is, and I'm not suggesting they're not going to make the playoffs, but things are so close in the East that the Cavs are actually closer to missing the playoffs, finishing in the 9, than they are to being in the
Well,
one.
9's in the play-in still.
Playing.
It is, but I'm talking about teams that make the playoffs, which
Yeah.
we know are only the top 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
they
they're
should not
closer
be
to
in the
7
play-in.
than they are to
7?
1.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're
They should be a
closer
playoff team,
Yeah.
not a
to
play-in
being
team.
out of the playoffs right
Yeah.
now, which there's
in the play-in round.
Yeah, they're 5.5 games out of first, but they're only 4 games from
The
being
East is loaded.
out of the playoffs,
Yeah.
which is terrifying to me. I'm not suggesting that they're gonna finish below that line,
Right.
but
Yeah, you got to finish top 6, and
I think you got to finish top 4 if you're going to win a round.
Sure.
Because this team, it is what it is, and at home they're
Yeah.
very good, and on the road they're not.
And really, even if you finish 4, you're going to have to play a really
good team.
Yes.
Ideally,
A
they
5.
finish 3 because the drop off in the East is after 5.
It is
top
right
5
now.
teams-
2 through 5 are separated by 1 game or
Right.
2 games, something like
And
that.
then once you get to 6, those teams are a level
Yeah,
worse.
they are.
So
they
you know.
are.
All right, question number 3. Another 3-3 split. It comes down to our boy Evan Mobley. He's averaging 14.5 points per game. Will he finish the season averaging at least 15? Once again, even split. Jason, you said no. Jay and Bull said yes.
What do you have last night?
18 last night.
18 last night.
Okay.
Which-
So he's probably at 14.6 now.
It's hard to a half a point doesn't seem like a lot,
It's a
but
lot.
it is hard.
It's a lot,
This
and
late
that's
in the
why I
season.
said no.
What he
And,
needs is like a 38-point night.
I mean, and we saw without Donovan last night, he gave you 18. He had
Yeah.
a marvelous game,
Yeah.
but he gave you 18
Sure.
without Donovan. So with Donovan, when he's healthy and out there, I just don't see.
I think you're
how that's
probably
gonna
right.
happen.
Even though I said over, I think you'll probably end up being right.
Well,
but
I wonder if it went to 14.6. Probably not.
No,
he was
because
only
I think he
3
was
and a half
actually,
over.
and he wasn't even. It's a roundup to get to 14 and a half. Of
Yeah.
where he's truly
Okay.
at right now.
I'm just being optimistic. I want him to be over 15, but I don't know if in my heart I really believe that he can do that. But I think
You'd have to average over 16 the rest of the way. It's 16. I
is-
try to run
it's-
some quick
it's
numbers.
doable.
It's doable.
I mean, but it's just gonna
don't
it's gonna
see
be
it.
like it's like your grade point average or your batting average. It's so easy to get that thing down.
Right.
It is really
It's
hard
to
to
get
pull it back
when
up.
you're playing with 2 ball dominant guys like Darius and Donovan.
Right.
He's just not going to have that many.
part of the reason I
opportunities.
thought he might be able to do it is A, his natural progression, and B, just that Darius and Donovan seem to miss time.
They do.
And when one of them's out, he has a better chance of scoring more
Yeah.
points.
That's for sure. Okay, next.
All right, this next one was our only unanimous one. And I do think there is a little debate here. We all agree. Will Donovan Mitchell make either the first team or second team All-NBA team when the season's over? There are a lot of really good guards. We all said yes. We all think he makes first or second team. He's probably a lock if it
Second
ended today
team.
as a
I think
second
so.
team
I think
member.
second
Probably
team.
second team.
Yep, I do too.
But there are a lot of other candidates. We don't have to
know.
get into it today. We'll get into it later
Is
in
it
the season.
position specific? I couldn't
It
remember.
is.
Two guards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two
Two guard
guards make the
spots.
team. He's got to be in the top 4 guards, and I just think he is.
Who are
mean-
the top guards right now, Mikey?
Well, if it ended today, Luka would be a unanimous
Right.
first
He would
team.
be.
And then let me pull up. I'm drawing a blank. Well, the thing is, Tatum has the guard forward
He's not a
split,
guard.
whatever you want.
I
to
don't know
look
where
at
they.
it as.
I don't know what they qualify him as.
Yeah.
I don't either, but
He's one of the splits. He gets both ways, which is not really fair. Bill Simmons just did a podcast. I'm drawing a blank on who he had, but he had Gilgeous-Alexander on OKC and Donovan Mitchell as his 2 second-team guards at the moment.
yeah, Donovan's going to make the top.
Yeah, but if it comes
He'll
and
make
if
this.
it did come down between
And
those
John
two,
Morant was also
Dude,
on
he's
third
had a
team.
70-point game this year,
yeah,
right?
and I like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's a great player, but he's playing on a crappy team.
Yeah.
That would
They,
have
they, were,
difference.
they were his 2. It wasn't.
I hear no,
I'd say those were his 2.
I hear you, but I'm saying if for some reason it did come down to those 2 guys,
Yeah.
I think the tiebreaker is the better team.
Yeah.
I do too. All right.
I'm
going
gonna
to
look up. I'm looking up while we do this, but this is our last question here, and then we'll get into some NFL stuff. Will the Cavs finish the season as a top 4 seed in the East? Jay, you said no.
Yeah.
Everyone else besides Tyvis
I think the
said
reason.
yes. Also, I think I'm going to include myself. I just like seeing the chicken nugget on the graphics. And that's just a nice touch.
You have to be in there every time now.
Yeah, I do think
The
Anthony
nugget
has
is
to make that a
fantastic.
requirement.
I said
Making me
no
hungry.
because currently they're not in the top 4. And I think the other thing that this is becoming a real concern of mine now, I'm hoping that it's not a characteristic of a JB coach team that they come out red hot and they sort of fade as the season goes on. We saw that last year. He prioritizes defense. We know defense takes energy, and we know that teams have so much energy in the tank for the 82, for the long haul. And I'm seeing signs over the last 3 weeks that they're regressing. And so if that regression continues, they're not going to finish in the top 4.
Right.
Now, you have other things going on. The Nets can't stay healthy. They did move past
That's
the Cavs.
a big part of the reason why I picked
And by
it.
the way, I think they're 2 games from being in the 2. So it's really tightly bunched there.
But since Durant got hurt, they've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, no, they're going to fall back, and that would put them at 4. But he's also going to get healthy. He's going to come back.
Right, but you know, is he going to come back in February, or is he going to come back in March or April?
I don't think there's any indication he's going to miss that much time.
I don't think so.
But
But they're not going to rush
Durant.
They said if it goes according to schedule, he'll be back 2 weeks before the All-Star break, so beginning of February. They may just be cautious. And
Which
let
is
him
only
sit out
2
those
weeks
2
away.
If
Probably
it's 2
5
weeks
games
before,
away.
Right, but if it's really are they going to play him for 2 weeks for the? Wouldn't you just sit him until the All-Star after?
I think if he's ready to go, you put him out there. You just want to keep him in his game rhythm.
And he's very moody and sensitive, and you want to keep him engaged.
But I'm saying it's up to him though.
Well, if he's healthy and ready to go, that's not a guy you can sit because you might lose him.
No, I say I'm right, but what if he wants to sit? Then he's going to sit.
Oh, then he'll sit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right.
but
Yeah,
I don't
know
think
why
that's-
he would
I
want
don't
to
think that's the
sit.
case.
I mean, he knows what's at stake here too,
Yeah.
and they're
He
all
wants
in
to
on a
play.
championship.
Who's
part
more
of the-
miserable, by the way, Durant or Kyrie?
I was around
Yes.
Kyrie, not Kevin, every day, so it's hard for me to say. But Kyrie's pretty miserable.
Yeah, both.
Pretty miserable.
Both. Why do you guys? Are you real confident that they're going to finish in the top 4?
I'm not overly confident, but I just think that I think the Bull. I would bet that like by the time Durant comes back, Kyrie will get hurt because he's always hurt.
One of
and
them.
I don't know. I mean, I love the way I know they lost but I love the way the Cavs played last night.
I do
overall
too.
It was a great effort.
I do too.
I think, there is some fair criticism of JB, no doubt. But I think last year had to do with all the injuries, and I'm just
had a
hoping they
ton
won't
of
be
injuries.
just crushed with
Yeah.
injuries
Right.
in the second half of the
I
season.
felt all year they were a top 3 team, so I'm not going to back away from that now.
Yeah.
I thought they were the 3rd best team in the
Okay.
East
Very
all year
good.
long. So
Who
I'll
do you
stick with it.
if the Cavs had to play real quick? Cavs had to play in the first round. One of the other 4 good teams: Philly, Brooklyn, Boston, and
You want to play Brooklyn
give me
because you can't trust
Milwaukee.
Kyrie.
Yeah,
Assuming guys are healthy.
Right.
Assuming
Yeah.
guys
If
are
you're going to
healthy.
assume that everybody on the Nets is healthy and
would
that
you rather
Kyrie and
play?
Durant, I'd give me Philly.
I'd take Philly too.
I
Yeah,
take
give me
Philly.
Philly.
That's the
The
case.
only thing that makes me,
'cause
I would agree Philly, but the thing that makes me nervous is like, how do you stop Embiid?
I know the star power factor is
Yeah.
absolutely there.
It's
How do you
tough.
stop Durant?
But you know what? It's like picking your poison with those
Right.
4. They're all very
Cavs
good.
have played well against Boston. I don't know if that
It's-
matters in the playoffs.
No,
but
doesn't
It
matter.
sucks that all the talent now is in the East.
Yeah.
It
I
really
know.
does. It
I
makes
know.
it so much
It's
more
tricky.
difficult.
Yeah.
For it's like all those years when the AFC had Manning and Brady. Not that the Browns were ever in the mix, but one reason it was very difficult for me to ever get excited through all of those years was you got to get through Brady and Manning. No.
Well,
The
now-
AFC, the
now it's
AFC
again.
still like that.
It is back to
Still
being.
like
But
Yeah.
I sat down with Mike Brown and did a big story on his resurgence with the Kings, the way he's turned the Kings
Yeah.
around a couple weeks ago. And I talked to people in the Kings organization who said exactly, like Kevin Durant went to the East, and a couple other stars, Donovan leaving the West.
I mean,
and coming
LeBron's
East.
in the West still, but
Yeah,
Right.
but the Kings looked at this as like, this is our chance.
let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's
the
smart.
West is wide open, whereas we were saying that about the East for years.
We were.
And now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the young teams in the West, like the Kings, saying we have an opening here.
Right, right,
the
right.
East is dominant. All the stars are going to the East.
Yeah.
Let's make a run here.
That's very true, and it's very astute and smart of that organization
Yeah.
to recognize when you strike,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's what
And
they're
they've
doing.
been a terrible organization.
So we're going to
forever.
try something new here. We've got 4 NFL topics we're going to do in 20 minutes. Let's call it 4th and 20 because it's a
We're
long
doing
shot
4th
that
and
we
20,
get that
'cause
done.
I like Jay.
It's
I
a
see where
long
you're
shot.
going with that.
So
Yep.
we have 4 NFL burning questions to do in 20 minutes. It's 33 after the hour. We got until 53, so let's go. First up, which game are you most excited for this weekend?
Buffalo, Cincinnati.
Damn, that was mine too.
Well, you know which game he's most
I
excited
know.
about.
I know. So it's
we
a
all
clean
are.
sweep.
Yeah, I mean, if I take my fandom out of it,
Dallas, San Francisco.
That's my number 2.
That's my number
Yep.
2.
Yep.
yeah, I guess I would probably.
That's going to be a hell of a game.
I actually think this Jags-Chief game is going to be pretty interesting.
I think it's going to
No,
be closer than people think.
I disagree. I think 27-0 Jags are the Jags we're going to see.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
I
the
don't
Chiefs.
know.
Well, we know this much. Andy
Yeah.
Reid will not do what Brandon Staley did.
Certainly not.
No.
I
I mean,
think-
I know he's done that a couple times against
He did it last
Cincinnati.
year against
but let me tell you
Cincinnati.
something. Andy Reid, the reason he's still thriving and existing in the NFL, all of the mistakes that he made in Philadelphia in big games, and he made a lot of them,
Yeah.
he learned from those. And I think he's made critical mistakes against the Bengals in all 3 of their recent losses. And I think that that's not going to happen again. They're going to play every possession in Kansas City like they're down 5 with 3 minutes to go.
I mean, he should. I mean, every coach should play that way.
They don't, though.
I will say this. Here's my bold prediction for this weekend. All 4 games within 1 score at the end.
I hope so, because that means we've got a great weekend of football.
I do think, I was complaining the other day, I think San Francisco has a horribly unfair advantage because of the extra time off than Dallas. But I do think Dallas is going to cover. I think those are 2 terrific defenses. The Niners and the Cowboys both play great defense. I think this Cowboys defense is by far the best defense Brock Purdy's seen. And all this Brock Purdy talk, I think, could come crashing down.
He's going to show us true colors.
I think the Niners win, but I think that
you do.
I think San
because I'm not
Francisco
sure.
wins.
I think the Cowboys can win this game
They
outright.
can.
I think it's a toss-up,
They
and I'm
can.
leaning towards the Cowboys, but
I like the Cowboys to cover, but I think the Niners
To
are
your
gonna
point
win.
about Brock Purdy, this Dallas defense is special. And Micah Parsons is a special player.
Yeah.
And Brock Purdy is going to get to meet him up close and personal. He's going to see him early. He's going to see him often. And I think he's going to be the difference in the
Cowboys
game.
have had a few games this year where their defense has been awful. It's been weird.
And their offense.
Sam Howell just torched him in Week 18.
Yeah,
I know.
I have no faith that the Cowboys offense can play well 2 weeks in a row, and they just cooked the Bucs.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to.
So they're due for an egg.
Yeah, I don't think
that's fair.
And San
Yeah.
Francisco's defense is every bit as good as Dallas.
I do think we're going to
San
get 4
Francisco's
games.
defense is
It's
better.
elite.
Back to
Yeah,
the
it
game
is.
that we
It's
all
elite.
agree is going to be the best game.
Yeah.
And that's the Bills and the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, the one concern is the Bengals' offensive line. They've lost 3 starters in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, I think it does seem like there's a chance that Jonah Williams, who just got hurt, is going to play their left tackle, which is a big difference. The right tackle, Lyle Collins, who got hurt a few weeks ago, I don't think is a big deal. Their right guard, Alex Kappa, is their best offensive lineman. He got hurt 2 weeks ago.
He's not playing, is he?
I don't think it's set in stone, but I'd be surprised. I think he's got a chance. But having their left tackle back will make a big difference because they had to play Jackson Carman, who is horrible.
Put a parking cone out there.
Yeah.
That's why I text you.
And Jonah Williams is not a great, like Jedrick Wills, Jonah Williams is not a great left tackle, but he's serviceable.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's
better than the backup.
You can get away with serviceable.
Yeah.
You can't get away with Jackson Carman. So I think that's a big thing to watch in this game. He had a dislocated kneecap, and yet I think he's going to play.
Wow.
Supposedly he was walking around the locker room yesterday with no help at all.
Real quick, I want to go back to the Cincy-Baltimore game just because I was talking to an NFL coach who agreed with me and said Harbaugh did not screw up the clock.
Oh, he did.
He did it exactly right at the end of the game.
Listen,
it was the holding call that killed him.
I don't think it's a question of screwing it up. He did what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think the debate is, was that the right play? And I don't think it was.
What I would say, Jason, is I agree with his philosophy of wanting to run out the clock. However, because he has a quarterback that is a subpar quarterback, I would have wanted to get a little closer before I started running out the clock that much. I think
because he started doing it even at midfield.
I think he could have still run out the clock the same way, but potentially gotten down the field a little further. That's how I
had no issue with the way it was the holding. They had no margin for error.
The holding penalty killed him.
It destroyed him.
Killed. All right, we're on pace, guys, for 4th and 20.
All right.
Good
We're
job.
under
Good
5
first down.
minutes for the first topic.
Okay.
Number 2, more likely to repeat. This was a great question, McNuggets.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Daniel Jones playing as well as he did again, or Trevor Lawrence playing like he did last week. And you can go either way with the Lawrence. Will we see first half Lawrence or second half Lawrence? Which is the most likely to happen?
So we either have to pick Daniel Jones. or,
being great again, or Lawrence being awful again or great again.
I'll take Daniel Jones.
Wow.
Thank you.
I will take Jones. I've been impressed with him all year. He's not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL by any means, but he's winning and he's proving that he's making leaps. I think the Giants are going to have a really hard decision to make with him this offseason about what they do.
You do? You think it's a decision? Because I don't. I think they're all in on him.
Well,
I think Dable.
But do you franchise him or do you sign him to a monster deal?
You know what? I don't think it's going to take a monster deal.
I think
if he's smart, he'll look at what's happened with Baker Mayfield as an example. Baker Mayfield could still be here in Cleveland stealing money. There was an offer that was there. Now, I know everybody says it's questionable, but
I don't think there was ever an offer.
Maybe
I've been
not.
told there was
but
no
if,
offer.
if his representation would have come back with a little more, with a sense at all that we're in the ballpark, I think a deal would have been done. But when they came back and were like, absolutely not, then the Browns were like, okay, we're good. But with Daniel Jones, remember, it's his progress under the current head coach. Forget Daniel Jones the first couple of years.
Agreed. But if I'm the Giants, I want to see it for another year. So I'm franchise tagging him. I'm not giving him a long-term deal.
might be okay with it.
Yeah, listen, I'm just speaking. I don't know what Dable feels.
Right.
And obviously he got the best out of Daniel Jones.
Yes.
And that's what he does.
Like Stefanski for 1 year with Baker Mayfield.
Right.
Hey, we all talked about they signed, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, and those were both disasters. Well, quietly, Jared Goff had a nice year this year.
Very nice year.
Now, Wentz is a disaster.
Yes.
But Goff kind of bounced back this year.
And I don't know that you'd want to franchise him because, boy, you're talking about
big
boatloads of money.
But you're not tied to him for 5 years.
Right.
I understand that. So you're buying yourself another year to look at him, but the salary.
And I don't know the Giants cap situation, but I tend to agree with Bull. I think I would franchise
I want to
him.
see him for one more year, and then
he's going to make.
If he does it again, I'll lock him up.
$38 million.
Yeah. By the way, my answer to the question though is Trevor Lawrence playing well.
Well,
That's my answer.
here's why I didn't take Trevor.
Yeah.
He was so bad in the first half and so good in the second half. Who he really is probably somewhere in between.
But I'm not saying he's going to play quite as well as he did in the second half.
Well,
It's
you just
impossible.
did.
Yeah.
But I think he'll play close enough where I count it.
I'm with you. I'm going, again, with Daniel Jones, who was fool's gold to me coming into this season.
Yeah.
And the more I've looked at him, the more shine he's had. And the fact that he's the only quarterback in the history of the NFL playoffs to throw for 300 yards, have 2 touchdown passes throwing, 1 running, and 70 yards rushing. That is the complete portfolio of what you want your quarterback to do.
Let me ask you this. Who would you rather have going forward, Lawrence or Daniel Jones?
Lawrence,
no question. But that's not this question.
No, I know, but let me whose defense is better, Kansas City or Philadelphia?
Philly.
So I got Trevor Lawrence is the better quarterback playing against the worst defense.
No, I don't know. He's the better quarterback now. He's on a rookie contract right now, and I think he's got a higher ceiling.
Okay, you think Daniel Jones right now is better than Trevor Lawrence?
Yes.
I
do.
I don't think he is.
I do
think he
too.
is.
What are the numbers? What does the comparison look like?
I mean, Daniel Jones only threw 15 touchdowns this season, but part of that is he has literally guys they signed off other players' practice squads as his receivers.
I know.
They had absolutely nobody. Let me follow up Trevor Lawrence's stats. But Daniel Jones threw 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He also ran for 780 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Which is a
so you gotta
huge part of it.
Include that in. Trevor Lawrence this year threw for 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So 10
And
more
if you look at the
touchdowns.
second half for Trevor Lawrence, he was elite.
Yeah, down
Yeah, played
that
at elite level
stretch
the second
when
half
they
of the
needed
year.
to win games,
Yeah.
he was very, very good.
I'll just be fascinated because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be somewhere in between. He
Yeah.
can't be that bad,
Yeah.
and he can't be that
I
good.
like
do
Trevor.
think
I like
Jay-
Trevor Lawrence a lot.
By the way, I do think Daniel Jones is going to play well also this weekend,
Yeah.
but I think Lawrence will be better than Daniel Jones.
Okay, we're still on pace.
We're doing great, guys.
Yeah.
I'm proud of
Number
you.
3, bigger liability. And I think I'm going to say the Bengals' offensive line, not just the right side.
Yeah, it's
because
the
I
three
know
guys-
there's still
three
a
guys
question
they're
on the left
missing.
side.
Yeah.
So let's just say bigger liability. The Bengals' offensive line or Josh Allen's turnover issues, among them his propensity to turn it over in the red zone.
I will say Bengals offensive line because I don't think there is any fix to that. I think with Josh Allen, a lot of times I think it's a focus and concentration thing. And I would be shocked if that continues in this second round against an elite opponent like the Bengals. I'd be surprised by that. The Bengals offensive line needs a lot of help, and that's not a focus and concentration. That's a talent issue.
Okay.
I think it's actually, and maybe I'm biased, but I think it's Allen is a big problem. Joe Burrow can make, first of all, the Ravens have an excellent defense. Their defense the second half of the year was the best in football. The best in football, despite the fact that they have no help on offense. So, and in the end, they sacked, I think what did they sack Burrow? 4 times in this game?
I believe
Last
it was
week?
4. I'll double check for
Last
you right
week?
now.
I think it was 4.
Yeah,
and
that
that's
sounds
with
about right.
the worst left tackle coming in the middle of the game.
Right.
That won't, unless somebody else gets hurt. Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor have done a great job this year of, they, before these injuries, had significantly improved the offensive line where they went from crap to middle of the road.
Yeah.
But also, Joe Burrow has done a much better job this year of getting rid of the ball quicker. And if you look at his average time to throw the ball, he was second behind Tom Brady this season in, snap to get rid of the ball.
Really?
Yes, he had the second fastest time.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
You wouldn't have guessed it, right? Because they throw deep a lot, whatever.
Yeah.
But the Bengals also like to, let's get Chase the ball quick and let him
Sure.
Let's get Higgins the ball quick.
Yeah, quick
I think
crossing.
you can make up for it, and I don't think the Bills, while they're good defensively, without Von Miller, they don't have the pass rush that the Ravens do. And so you never know if a guy gets hurt in the game. But as long as they're not changing offensive linemen during the game, I think they'll be able to overcome
Josh
that.
Allen is maddening because
I know it is.
Like watch the fumble against the Dolphins. Like, he's just not taking care of the ball.
Yeah.
And
that's
he
why it
runs a
feels like
lot with the
focus and
ball out there,
He does.
and that's a surprise to me because it's so fixable.
It's focus and concentration.
And not that Burrow doesn't turn the ball over, because he does, but he's not careless like Josh Allen is.
Yeah.
I think my biggest concern is the Bengals' offensive line too. Now, that's not to say Josh Allen isn't a concern, because it's not like these red zone picks are one-offs. This is baked into his cake, and it's very hard for a player to change their stripes after giving us a 4-year body of work to kind of to figure out who he is and what he does.
Yeah.
All that being said, I still believe greatly in Josh Allen. I just think that these playoff games are won in the trenches. The Bengals are a team that, even though that stat really surprises me, even though they are a team that gets rid of the ball quickly, they're going to need to get rid of it really quickly against the Bills.
The offensive line, even with the injuries now, is still better than it was last year, and they still went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's true.
So it's tough. I mean, if you would have told me the Bengals' offensive line was healthy, I'd be 100% confident the Bengals are going to win this game.
Right.
And now, as a fan, I'm not as confident.
I will say this. I think that normally I look at the playoffs and the way things shake out, and I say, you know what, this is fair. This is equitable. I think this year it's one of the most unfair things I've ever seen in the course of my being an NFL fan. The road to the playoffs, to really the conference championship game for the Chiefs, a team that, let's face it, was like 1A, 1AA between the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bengals.
Right. Yep.
They get to stay at home and get the Jags. That's the only thing standing in their way to another AFC Championship game appearance.
Yeah.
While meantime, two teams that many experts consider to be the best in the AFC have to play a game to get to Kansas City.
Well, if the Bills get there, it's a neutral site. If the Bengals get there,
you're right.
This should be a neutral site.
This should be a neutral site as well.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I just think it's unfair.
Because you think about it. The reason it's a neutral site, Chiefs-Bills, is because the league said, well, if the Bills would have beat the Bengals, then the Bills would have been the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Same thing here.
I know.
If the Bengals would have beat the Bills,
and so
the Bengals would have been the 2 seed.
So why they're not using that same logic makes absolutely
no sense.
sense.
I will say, how about this stat? I saw my man Khalif TA, shout out to him. The Bills are like a 6-point favorite in this game, which I think is way too high. The last 20 games, which is almost their entire careers, that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have played together for the Bengals have either won every game or lost by 3 or less. They have not lost.
Well, that's true, because the Browns are the teams that
Chase
boat
didn't
raced
play.
them, and Chase wasn't in.
Chase didn't play.
Yeah.
What about Chase didn't play in the blowout last year either?
Burrow didn't play.
No,
you mean earlier game?
Yeah.
I think that's where
Well,
it's
20
the last
games
20.
is this season plus the end of last
It's the
season.
last 20.
Oh, so the
I
Browns
think that was the
may
last
have been,
time.
because I think the Browns had the Bengals had everybody.
Yes, for that
when they
game,
boat
yes.
raced them last year.
I think that
at
was
their
the
place.
last time they lost by more than 3 points
Wow.
with Chase and Burrow
Chase
on the
and
field.
Burrow.
So basically, they don't get if Chase is playing and Burrow's playing, they don't get blown out.
Yeah, man.
But he couldn't get me 85 yards last week. 84, call it
Last
a
point for the
day.
last question. Daniel Jones, the Barnes & Noble version of Josh Allen. Just throwing it out there. Little thinking man's Josh
Daniel
Allen.
Jones, the Barnes and Noble version. What does that mean?
He's like
Barnes
the
and Noble
watered down
is great.
version
Why are
without
you
the
dissing
mistakes.
Barnes and Noble?
Well, I was trying to think of where smart people shop.
All right, we've got one more to complete our 4th and 20. We're going to do it. We've got
We're
6
doing it.
minutes to go.
Yeah.
Which coach? And I added something to your question.
enjoying
so
this
there's
segment,
really,
by the way.
There's really 2 questions here.
Yeah.
Which coach left in the postseason do you have the most faith in? And I'm going to add one to this. And the least faith in.
That's a good question. Jason, what do you got?
Most faith, Kyle Shanahan.
Really?
Yeah, I really like Kyle
I
Shanahan.
thought this was going to be a slam dunk with
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
I'd take Kyle Shanahan over Andy Reid. Absolutely.
No kidding.
I even had Sean McDermott above Andy Reid. Yeah. I mean,
you know what? I guess I can't.
Andy Reid's won 1 Super Bowl, right?
I can't
But
divorce
Sean McDermott's
myself.
never gone to the Super Bowl.
I know, but I think they got.
I can't divorce myself from Kyle Shanahan 28-3. I can't. I just can't. And I think that's why he's always going to be a tick below Andy Reid, who I consider to be a freaking genius.
Well, I take Kyle Shanahan, and I'm sorry, Bull. Your guy I have the least faith in.
That's
Zach
my
Taylor.
least favorite. That's my least faith, too.
Yeah.
Least
Faith.
Who do you have least
I
faith?
couldn't think of another coach.
And I'm not
I mean,
I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I can't think of
I
one
went
that
through all
have.
8 this morning, and I'm like, you know what?
Did we have these questions in advance? Because I didn't look at
I
them.
added
Yeah,
the
it's
least.
good.
So that's an audible.
To
I
me-
added that one.
To me, I'm trying to. Why can't I think of the fourth team? Oh, the Giants. I mean, how do you pick Brian
Daboll
Daboll over Zach Taylor?
All right, that's fair. And
Here's
yeah,
how you do.
I like Brian Daboll,
but
he
here's
hadn't done
how.
it yet. He hadn't done
I
it
just
yet.
looked at where the Giants were.
Yeah.
And what they had, and I thought they're not a playoff team.
So you're just
period,
giving Burrow all the
full stop.
credit and no credit to Taylor, essentially.
Burrow.
You've said multiple
Burrow
times you think he's an idiot.
I don't think he's a great coach. No.
And
But I don't
honestly,
think he's an idiot.
And so what
I've come
seen-
around on him a little bit. You know why? And maybe this is stupid. Burrow loves him so much and thinks so highly of him.
That counts.
That it's made me come around on
Yeah,
Zach
but you
Taylor.
know what?
If it's legitimate, he's not
if
just
it's
saying
legit,
it.
Herbert
yes.
loves Staley and thinks so highly of Staley,
True.
and I think they are doing the gentleman's punt on next year
But-
because that guy's coming back.
But Jay, the difference is that Burrow at least has something to point to for believing in his coach. That they've been to the Super Bowl.
Sure, yeah.
The
you're more
Chargers
likely-
haven't won a thing.
No. In
So-
fact, they missed the playoffs
You
last
know
year
who I'd say I
specifically
trust the
because of
least?
coach.
And it's maybe unfair because he's won a Super Bowl, is Mike Holmgren. I don't trust him at all.
Mike
Mike,
McCarthy.
you always
Oh,
call
Mike
him
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
It's the second
Yeah,
time
you
I've done
always
that in
do
2
that.
weeks. Mike McCarthy. I don't
McCarthy's the
trust
right
him at
answer
all.
here, by the way.
I don't think
What's
he's a good
that?
coach.
McCarthy's the right answer. I'm shocked no one said that.
No, I don't think he
And
is
I'm with
because
Jay.
he's won a Super Bowl.
I
I'm
do
looking
like
at
Kyle
Zach Taylor, a
Shanahan
guy
a lot.
who went.
But I'm with you on Andy Reid as the guy I trust.
Yeah, Andy Reid, for me, I have so much faith in Andy. I do think that their recent failures against
Yeah.
the Bengals, those are the logs on their motivational fire that will get them over the hump. I believe that. Even though I know I picked the Bills, because the Bills, for me, have the sentimental piece.
I think Bills are winning the Super Bowl.
I do too.
Yeah.
I have the Bills beating
I
the
think-
Niners
yeah,
in
well.
the Super Bowl.
I
But
think the winner of the Bills-Bengals game will win the
Wins the
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And yet, so here you go. You guys are picking Andy Reid. You don't even think he's going to the Super Bowl this year.
Well, I had Andy Reid, but I just think that with all of the things that have happened. By the way, I think I'd be surprised if DeMar Hamlin doesn't lead them out of the tunnel
yeah.
He'll be there tomorrow.
in this
I
playoff
guarantee.
game.
or
I'll be
Sunday.
stunned if he
Guarantee it.
doesn't do that.
It's gonna
And
be
I'm
interesting.
telling you, that's going to take an already supercharged building and set it on
It's
fire.
going to be nuts. I've been thinking about taking my son and going.
Wow.
Maybe. It's going to be crappy weather. It's a long drive. I'm not sure I want to do it.
You know what? I always say whenever you're thinking about doing that,
Yeah.
like, if you can,
Yeah.
do it, because life is about experiences.
I know.
It's not
I'm
that
thinking,
far of a drive.
Yeah, I'm
It's not
thinking
that
about
And
it.
it's those big games. Like I think I've told the story of my son and I and the
Yeah.
and the trip from in the car where I lost my license. Our flights got canceled and everything else. That was when Ohio State was 1 and Michigan was 2.
Yeah.
It's like one of the more memorable weekends
Yeah.
of both of our lives. We both talk about it all the time.
I guess I'm just a little concerned on the road. People are so crazy now that the behavior might be
Don't
so
live your
bad.
life like that. Don't live your life.
you
Bill's
know.
Mafia is totally normal in a good way. So like,
Yeah.
you're not,
They
you're not
are.
going
They're
into a
good
crazy
fans.
environment.
They're
or
good
I've been
fans.
to a Bills-Bengals game in Buffalo before.
Have
but
you?
But neither team was that good at the time. So.
I think tickets are going to be an issue.
Oh yeah, it's.
I
Gonna
mean,
be,
getting tickets
I could probably get them, but it's gonna be tricky.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All
that was
right,
a great
we
segment.
did it with 14 seconds to spare.
I'm really proud of us.
Yeah,
guys.
4th
Let's
and
give-
20.
Hey,
Well,
let's
there's
hold
only
up the
3 of
happy
us.
face emojis.
Yeah, no, that's true.
There's only 3
Let's
of
hold up
us.
the happy face emojis
Yeah,
as
let's do it.
Yay,
little
we did
testament
it.
to us. Reminder,
Absolutely.
if you're a member, you
We
get
did
those
good
same
today.
emojis.
We did good today.
We did good. And we got time for final takes, which we haven't done in a long time.
We haven't done final takes in a week.
We haven't done them
2
so long,
weeks.
I didn't plan one.
I didn't either, but
Beautiful.
does anybody have one? Or
Yeah,
anybody?
I could just kind of come up with one here.
Okay.
I'll do a little TV action. So new year, time for some new television shows. I watched the first episode. HBO's got a new big show, and I think this is going to be a huge hit. People love post-apocalyptic shows.
They do,
I mean,
for
it's
some
It's
reason.
a hot thing. This new show on HBO is called The Last of Us. The star of it, or one of the stars, but the main star, I can't think of the actor's name. He's the guy that plays the Mandalorian, if you watch that on Disney. He was in Narcos. I can't think of the actor's name. I don't know. Can you look that up for me, Mike? I can't think of the actor's name.
A light just went out in the studio. So if
Yeah,
anything looks weird,
Bull's backlight just went out.
okay.
The Last of Us is taking the last of our lights.
Yeah, look up the name of the lead actor. I can't think of the actor's name. He's great. Great in The Mandalorian. He was great in
All right, I got to pee.
Narcos.
Move it along.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal?
Yes.
He's fantastic. The first episode was absolutely phenomenal.
I read something on Pedro that said he's never been in anything that has lower than an 89 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, Narcos, did you ever anybody watch Narcos?
Yes, I mean, but
show.
everything that he's been in has been great, so they said this is going to be another hit.
The first episode was really good. I mean, I don't want to give anything away.
Bull, is the whole series out, or is it a week by week?
No, HBO does week by week. I know we're also spoiled and we want everything right away, which I want too. But
I think it's
first
better
episode
that way.
was great. By the way, 2 other shows, Mayor of Kingstown, Season 2 on Paramount+.
Do you like that?
Great show. Watch the first. It's really the only thing worth watching on Paramount. Oh, no, they got the Stallone show, too. King of Tulsa King.
All by the same creator.
Wait, is it Yellowstone on Paramount?
Yellowstone, created by Taylor Sheridan. Tulsa King with Stallone, created by Taylor Sheridan. And this Mayor of Kingstown, which stars Jeremy Renner, who had a serious accident recently.
Guys, not serious. Listen to this. The vehicle that ran over his body in entirety weighed 18,000 pounds.
Oh, my God. How is he alive?
It's not a snowplow. Everybody first said, he got run over by a snowplow. No, this is one of those huge excavating snow tractors.
Yeah.
Wow. How he's alive is a miracle.
It seems like he's coming out of it okay.
I don't know. Went home last night.
He's another great actor. That show, first episode of season 2. He was great in Hurt Locker. He's great as what's his name in the Marvel movies? I can't think of his character's name. Hawkeye. Jeez, what's the matter with me? Anyway, and the mayor of Kingstown, the first episode of season 2 was great, and so was the show with my brain is not functioning today. Bryan Cranston, Your Honor, season 2, episode 1. No, they just came out with the second season.
Oh, they did?
First episode, on point, excellent job, Bryan Cranston.
I never finished the first season.
Man, you're a TV. How much do you watch a week?
When I have some shows that I watch with my wife.
Right.
And we watch them like before we go to bed.
Sure.
And then sometimes I'll stay up late just to watch a show that's just for me.
Yeah.
Or on the weekends, you know.
God, I don't know how you
find
do
the time.
it.
I have an admission to make if we're talking TV for a sec.
Sure.
This past weekend, I had a couple hours to kill, and I'd seen Rocky 3 and 4. I'd never seen the original.
Oh, my God.
I watched the original this weekend.
Wow.
Why would you see Rocky 3 and 4 without going to see the original?
That's stunning to me.
Because you know this backstory, like you know what it is, and I saw 3 on a plane, and I was like, I should watch 4 because I heard 2 wasn't very good, and the original wasn't out.
Who told you 2 wasn't very good?
Yeah.
Someone told me 2 wasn't very
I
good.
thought you said you heard 2 wasn't very good. You haven't seen 5, Balboa?
I didn't even know.
No,
there was
5 is not Balboa.
Which one was
6
Balboa?
is Balboa.
Oh,
5 was the worst one. That's with Tommy Gunn.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's the worst one.
Watch Balboa and get back to me.
Balboa was great.
I was in Balboa. That's why I want you to watch it and get back to me.
I just watched it recently and saw you.
Yeah.
He bounced back nicely with that one.
I thought so too because I thought it was a big mistake when they told us, hey, Sylvester asked specifically for the First Take crew to be on. And I'm like, guys, do we want to do this? Like the last one killed. It's over. Jumped
5
the shark.
was terrible, but 6.
And one of our producers had read the screenplay to it and said, no, it's really good.
It was awesome.
It's really good. So we did it.
Kellerman was on it too.
Yeah.
And, it was great.
It was well done.
The only one that sucks is 5. 5 is terrible.
5 was brutal. Oh. Just brutal.
Can I make one comment on the original though?
Yes.
There's only 2 boxing scenes in the whole movie. The intro and the end.
It's more a love story.
It's a love story.
Persevering. Oh yeah, human. Persevering.
As someone who, like I said, I saw 3, 4.
Right.
Those are very boxing heavy. To go back, it was such a mind warp from what I expected.
Yeah, because there was so much action in all the other ones.
But what makes the Rocky and those movie specials are the training scenes with the music.
thought so too. Yeah,
that's what makes it the best.
So good.
You get so pumped up. Yeah.
Well, I'll make this quick because I didn't have it planned in advance and I got to pee. But we'll stick on Bull's TV thing, Kaleidoscope on Netflix.
Oh, really? That's
Great.
good, huh?
I loved it. I loved it. You can watch it in any order you want. You can go online and Google. They give you, like, if you want to go chronologically, don't go chronologically. I put the suspense order of the most suspenseful, so it saves everything for last. But there's a worldview order. And then I went back because no matter how you watch it, you're going to miss stuff. So then, like, you go back and you pick up little nuggets in different episodes. They're based on color. And you can go in any order that you want. It's I thoroughly enjoyed Kaleidoscope. Check it out on Netflix.
Wow.
I was not going to watch it.
It was really, I'm only halfway through, but so far, Jason, very good.
Yeah, it's great.
Is it funny?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's the guy from
right?
Breaking
Drama.
Bad. It's Gustavo Fring.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That guy's an amazing actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Very good.
terrific. But
I
I
have
started
nothing
with
to
like
add
the
to this
most
television
exciting
conversation.
one.
I really don't.
You don't watch any regular television.
I don't watch TV. I mean, I watch sports.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not kidding, guys. My wife always has HGTV on in the
Yeah.
house all the time. And I'm usually doing other things. So I'm not I don't care. It becomes background noise to me. I can tell you all about Chip and Joanna Gaines' most recent flip. I can tell you nothing about these series. Although, when my family was in, Corey was in, and Corey's he's like you guys. He's watched everything.
Yeah, yeah.
He watched White Lotus.
Great
and,
show.
Great.
and said, you got to watch
Yeah, I
it.
haven't
Great
seen
show.
that
So
one.
we binge
Well,
watched
it's 2
that.
seasons.
We saw season 1.
Great.
And I told my wife at the time, I'm like, I really need to watch more TV. This is entertaining.
Well, nowadays, there's so many great shows now. When we
Yeah.
were kids, TV mostly sucked.
Well, you had commercials.
Yeah,
Now
now
you watch a
between-
show with commercials.
I refuse
Between
I refuse to
HBO,
watch
Netflix,
commercials.
Amazon, there's so many great shows.
Right, which is why
White
broadcast
Lotus
television.
first season was phenomenal. The second season was really.
Well,
and
are you talking about White Lotus? Or-
first season? Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was weird, White Lotus.
it's bizarre.
That's the point.
Yeah, I guess.
That's the point.
I guess, but it was entertaining weird, and I thought the music was
And
absolutely
the
phenomenal.
music makes the show in
I-
both seasons. The scenery in Hawaii is
Now,
incredible.
I'm
Season 2
told
was even better. We
that
got 20
second
seconds. Just
season's
heads up,
in
20
Italy.
seconds.
Yeah, and I'm told that this is a real place in Italy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that it's a must
In
see.
Sicily, I think. It's
Yeah.
great.
Well, and that's where I want to go. And that's where
Yeah.
my grandparents are from, Sicily. So
Funny.
I'm gonna go check it out.
Overtime.
Yeah, see you in overtime. See you tomorrow. Love you guys.